Welcome. I am your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter at MMA LOTN. Joining me as always, we got my guy Cody Saftic. You guys know where to find him at CJ Saftic on Twitter. And we are here propping you up for UFC Vegas 18, headlined by a pivotal heavyweight matchup between Alistair Overeem and our guy Alexander Volkov. Cody, we got one weekend off, but we're right back at it. 8 straight weekends. You ready? What's up, buddy?
I am ready, man, because as far as the first 3 weeks have gone, going to the island, Dog City, somebody always shitting in my apple pie. And 2 weeks ago, last card with the McGregor offering is no different. However, propping me up saved my ass. Oh boy. Not only did you come through a huge play, Marina Rodriguez, second round TKO. I mean, call the exact round at an 11-1 offering. And then just to cap off that main event spot, Michael Chandler getting the knockout, which was a plus 650 play. Both of those two props definitely helped save some of the bleeding. But yeah, we got to get down to a nice clean slate. But these props, definitely a good way of looking at things. If you're not 100% sure of the winner, sometimes you can get, the over under, which is a much better play. Or sometimes you really like this guy and you get the prop. Now, that being said, Makhmud Muradov. Oh, like 2 minutes away, man. 2 minutes away. I had the decision, plus 375. And if someone was to tell me Andrew Sanchez would get knocked out in a third round, I guess I couldn't say they're crazy. So things going to happen once in a while. Thank God Chandler came through. And the Rodriguez play, very nice on Marina Rodriguez. So yeah, let's get back with some other juicy offerings.
Yeah, I'd say Rodriguez was like my sharpest play out of those 3 events total. You know what I mean? Otherwise, if you look at the other bets that I made, it's not so nice. So it's nice to at least come through with that Rodriguez play. And good on you for that Chandler KO prop. That was money for sure. We got a solid card coming up here. We got 13 fights, not to mention a couple of them dropped off. We got a couple late notice replacements as well too. I was eyeing a couple of props on those fights that fell off, so I had to really dig deep and try to find some props. No real juicy round props this time for you guys, but I'm still trying to find something juicy so you guys can run home to your friends and be like, hey, these guys told me this. Let's try to make some money. So as always, I want to remind you guys, make sure you guys smash that like and hit subscribe below. So show some support for the show and the odds crew. You guys are absolutely killing it with the support. Like, I am blown away by the amount of support that we're getting from you guys. And it truly means a lot to me and Cody, especially to the odds crew as well too. And again, the least you guys can do is just hit that like below and hit that subscribe for the odds channel as well too. As always, I will also be reminding you guys, I will take questions. We normally just keep it between me and Saftic, but I don't mind popping a couple questions on the stream if they are pertinent to the matchup at hand. And again, they got to be good questions. Don't ask me if somebody's going to shit the bed. You know what I mean? I'm not down with those types of questions. All right, let's get this show on the road. First and foremost, we got a short notice fight, somewhat of a short notice fight, actually. We got Osbourne versus Jerome Rivera. Odds are currently at minus 210 for Osbourne, plus 175 for Jerome Rivera. So funny thing about this fight, they were actually scheduled to fight during the first week of January during those slew of events. And then I think they signed Francisco Figueiredo and they're trying to look for an opponent. And they're like, you know what, that's Jerome Rivera. Let's put him into that spot. So he takes that fight. Osbourne gets set up with Dennis Bondare, UFC newcomer. He has to pull out. Jerome Rivera doesn't take too much damage in the Figueiredo fight and comes back and he's like, you know what? They offered me the fight. I was already getting ready for this guy. Let me take the shot and I might as well just get paid again, whether win or lose, right? So I still have an issue trying to figure out how this matchup is going to go down, right? Like Jerome Rivera seems like he shows glimpses of solid work. Like when that first round against Tyson M goes out there and does solid work, wins the round on all the judges' scorecards, that unfortunately runs into a Tyson M bomb in the second round. And then in the Figueiredo fight, he just never really got it going until that third round where he knew he was down, started pushing the pace, really landing some good shots, some good elbows, overextended a little bit on some things, maybe going for a head and arm choke, or a head and arm throw, which you probably shouldn't be doing at this level. Gives up his back for a little bit, takes off some time from that round and allows Figueiredo to survive and get the decision victory there. But I feel like there's bits and pieces of Rivera that are salvageable, that you can be like, okay, he could probably show us something. Now with Osbourne in his last 6 fights, you're talking about a guy that hasn't seen the second round. He's gone 4-2 in that stretch, finishing 4 guys. 2 of those matchups against the same guy, not entirely sure why. And then obviously his last offering, he got choked out by Brian Kelleher halfway through the first round. My question marks are, what does he look like in rounds 2 and 3? That's always my question marks with these guys that are coming into the UFC. He has 2 decision fights on his record. He lost a unanimous decision and he won a split decision. But unfortunately, I don't know about you, but I wasn't able to find any tape on that myself. But I want to see what his cardio is looking like, because if he goes into the second or those third rounds, Rivera could potentially put together something in terms of like volume and pace, and possibly just go out there and outwork him. He's a solid jiu-jitsu practitioner as well, which is what Osbourne likes to do off of his back. Throw up some solid arm bars, some triangles, but Jerome Rivera might be able to get out of those. So I'm kind of leaning the dog here, but I still have too many question marks. In terms of a prop for myself, I'm going with Rivera to win by a decision at plus 420. I think that's a solid spot. But man, just so many question marks for this fight. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I had to look the other way on this. I mean, there's the big question mark here is going to be the weigh-ins, and I see Ryan Diamond, he's all over it as well. So Jerome Rivera fought a week ago at 125 pounds. This fight's scheduled at 145 pounds. He's never fought at featherweight. I mean, yeah, he's fought at bantamweight. He's had some mixed success, but I mean, truthfully, the guy is a flyweight. Tyson Nam fight, it's at 35, but it should have been at 125. Both guys are natural flyweights. And then you see him against Francisco Rivera, same thing. And he's not, against Figueiredo. He's not super strong. I mean, he got out-muscled in the Figueiredo fight. He got taken down. He didn't take a whole lot of damage, don't get me wrong. He just got possessionally outsounded and obviously lost. But taking a fight at any point, you kick anything, this shin's going to hurt the next day. You punch anything, your hand's going to hurt the next day. You get your back grinded against the cage. You get cage rash on your back. You get canvas burn. Like, you don't just walk out of a fight unscathed, especially in a fight that went 15 minutes, in which you lost. Yeah. And that fight's at 125 pounds. Again, very key here. So he was supposed to take on Osbourne already. But with Osbourne, it's like he's a natural 35. We fought Brian Kelleher, who's fought at 35 and 45 and has a really nasty guillotine choke. Getting caught in a Brian Kelleher guillotine choke ain't the end of the world, It's like getting caught in a Uriah Faber guillotine choke or a Nick Lentz guillotine choke. Some guys, that's their one move. He's got a hell of a choke on him. Why Osbourne initiated the grappling exchange? I don't know. Couldn't tell you. He seems like, although he can grapple, he shows submission victories, he's more of a striker. I mean, he's a switch stance guy, can fight out of orthodox, can fight southpaw, has a nasty body kick. And I really think that if this fight stays standing, he's the bigger, longer, rangier, better striker than Rivera. Rivera needs to get this fight to the ground. Rivera's wrestling is just not all that good. If the fight does hit the ground, he's decent on the ground. But so is Osbourne. And so Osbourne's one of these guys that had 4 or 5 first-round finishes coming into the UFC, wins on the Contender Series. It's another first-round finish, signs to the UFC. He's the favorite over Brian Kelleher. There is some hype behind him, and Kelleher makes him look foolish. But there's been a lot of time off since then. He's still only 29 years old. One would imagine that octagon jitters out of the way, better game plan, in shape, coming in here, going to be the larger man. And the move to 45, even though, it should be at 35, he's not really a featherweight himself. It's going to favor him over a guy that just fought at 125 pounds a few weeks ago, right? One would imagine that if Jerome Rivera fights at 125, he's walking around at 150 pounds, right? So what's he cutting for this fight? 4 pounds is what he's going to cut for this? Ode's still going to come in as a 165-pound man, 160-pound man, cut down to 145, still be the bigger guy, and that should help him keep the fight standing. And if the fight stays standing, I do give him the advantage. But you do bring up one very good point, is that Osbourne's been in so many first-round finishes the last number of years that, like, I couldn't look you in the eye and tell you that he's got second and third round cardio. I actually don't know. Whereas Rivera, yeah, we know this guy can go a couple rounds. We know he can finish. We know he can go a little bit as well. He's got decent output. His defensive wrestling needs some work, but is Osbourne the guy that's gonna expose that again? Like, I'm not so sure. So that's a big Rivera prop. I didn't mind that. I actually went completely the opposite way and just decided to look at Osbourne by knockout is plus 445, right? So you go to plus 420 Rivera by decision. I had Osbourne knockout plus 445 and the under 2.5 at minus 125. And I just say that because Osbourne, again, if you look at all of his fights, they're all finishes, right? Either he's getting finished in his last one against Kelleher, or he's finishing guys as well. So it screams under 2.5. Either this guy goes out there, does what he does, he's a one-round guy, and he takes out Rivera in that first round. Or he doesn't. You're right. I'm wrong. He doesn't have more than 1 round cardio. He tires, and he still gets taken out under 2.5. So the under 2.5 looked like a decent play. But because it was such a big price tag on Osbourne, plus 445, I really do think at Pura Vida, he's probably been working on his striking out of Wisconsin. It was always a trick that was in his back pocket. He just didn't really get to showcase it all that much against Kelleher. So hopefully this is another fighter coming in a second fight and gives you a much better showing in a sophomore outing, which we do see all the time, right?
Yeah. I do want to actually bring up, in terms of takedowns for Jerome Rivera, 0 of 10 in his last 3 fights. And the interesting part about this, when they were first scheduled to fight, the fight was actually scheduled to happen at 125 pounds. So I think Ode Osbourne had it in the back of his mind that he did eventually want to go back down to 125 pounds. Shout out to Big Marcel for giving us the information that, again, these guys were scheduled to fight a while ago, and it was supposed to be 20 pounds less. So it is what it is. I understand the short notice nature of it and why Jerome Rivera wants it at 145 pounds. Very close fight, a lot of question marks. Looking forward to how that one plays out. Speaking about another short notice fight, we got Yussef Zalal coming in, stepping in for Colin Anglin. He's taking on Seungwoo Choi. In terms of odds, we got Yussef Zalal coming in at minus 245, Seungwoo Choi at plus 205. I don't have the strongest thoughts on this, so I'll go over it real quick in terms of how I'm feeling about it. Zalal showed great work last year where he was able to go 3-0 up until the point that he ran into Ilia Topuria. But I don't know about you, but I think Ilia Topuria is a top 5 to top 7 type of guy, so that's not a bad loss right there. And then Zalal, again, to have 4 fights in the UFC, especially making your debut a month into the year. In February, he makes his debut and still rattles off 4 fights. Is very impressive. Gets 3 solid wins. It has a good team behind him. Factory X is a great team. Moves well, has decent striking game. Is able to mix it up with the takedowns if he needs to, like he did against Austin Lingo and his last opponent as well, too, the one Peter Barrett. With Seungwoo Choi, though, you're talking about a hazing phase coming into the UFC, fighting a guy like Movsar Evloev in your first fight. Then you got to follow that up with Gavin Tucker, and then you finally get a softball in Suman Mkhitaryan, who him and his brother probably number 1 and 2 worst fighters in the UFC of all time. But I like Choi's striking game. National Muay Thai champion. He's very rangy for the Division 2. My qualm with this, though, is the odds seem a little bit way too wide here. Like in reality, it seems like it should be maybe minus 150 for Zalal. But in terms of props, the spot that I'm looking at, the over 2.5 is a very solid spot in my opinion. I think both guys are very durable. It's maybe a little bit chalky now. It's currently sitting around that minus 190, minus 210 range, depending on what bookie you're looking at. But the side that I'd be leaning with is Zalal at plus 125, being able to mix this fight up well. Again, he's very durable. I don't think Choi will be able to take him out. But if he's not able to get Choi down, that's where I think things get very, very interesting. So I don't even mind somebody taking a shot on Choi here based on the odds. But from what we've seen thus far and what I believe out of Zalal, and especially how hard he took that Topuria loss. If you guys remember, there's a clip going around where Topuria is in the back consoling Zalal because Zalal was just so torn up about that loss. He's coming back with the fire. He took this fight on short notice because he's like, I want to get back in there. I want to right this wrong. I want to get a dub. And against a guy like Choi, there is paths to victory for sure with those takedowns. Is he a Movsar Evloev though? Probably not, but he should still be able to be successful in some of those takedowns. So I'll go with Zalal via decision, which again is plus 125. I'd like a little bit more. How do you feel about this fight?
Yeah, I just couldn't get my head wrapped around the odds, to be honest with you. As you mentioned, it just seemed like it was a little bit wide out for Zalal. I think a lot of that's recency bias. You look at the use of Zalal, and he's everybody's darling. I mean, there was a lot of media outlets putting this guy as a potential till he lost the fight to Topuria as like rookie of the year, standout of the year. This guy could, if he beat Topuria, 4-0 in 2020. He's one of these kids that's just very active and improving. The thing is that when you look at that win streak, Austin Lingo making his debut, expose him a little bit with the wrestling and the movement. His last fight, slippery Pete Barrett. The Jordan Griffin fight is a very close fight. Is winning those 3 fights more meaningful than losing to Movsar Evloev and Gavin Tucker? To most people, 3 wins is better than 2 losses, but it's competition, man. And that's one thing I'll give Choi, is that Choi has not had an easy run at all. Put it this way, this guy is a Muay Thai fighter from Korea. He's a Muay Thai fighter. He's a former bronze medalist at the 2010 Nationals. He's a standout Muay Thai fighter. And yet he draws Movsar Evloev in his debut. Tough go, right? He's like a 4-1 underdog, 5-1 underdog. He gives a decent account of himself. Unfortunately, Movsar Evloev was chains wrestling too much for him, taken down 5 times. Then, like you said, the Gavin Tucker fight, I thought he looked good in the first round. Unfortunately, Tucker was just like, whatever, I'm going to do the same thing Evloev did. I don't want to stand with this guy anymore. Takes him down. And he still actually gave a decent account of himself, but he did get submitted in the 3rd round. And Tucker, a good BJJ black belt. So again, no discredit. And then Suman Mkhitaryan, he's a full brother to Trash Can Mkhitaryan, who, as you very accurately described, as the worst fighter in UFC history. So yeah, it seems like, oh well, he's losing or he beats low level guys, and Zalal's beating everybody. It's like Zalal's not beating everybody. He beat 3 guys that were lower level than what Choi's been fighting realistically. And the last fight with Topuria is 24 years old. He took the fight on a week's notice. He came in here and he whatever he wanted to do. He was too strong for him. He pushed him up against the cage. He had the better ground game. In the 3rd round, he did tire, but again, he took the fight on less than a week's notice, so it's understandable that he would tire. So Zalal being all that upset, it's like, what's there to be upset about, dude? You won 3 fights this year. Like a 3-1 record for the year is pretty good, and you're getting paid, and you went to decision, and like sky's the limit. But you're emotional. You're young. Like you still gotta overcome that stuff. Choi, meanwhile, he just seems like he's dialed in. He's here to fight. And so it just seems a little bit too narrow. Here's another thing about Choi, right? 145 pounds, dude's 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
He's 6 foot. He's a 74-inch reach, right? So Zalal had better get this fight to the ground. That's one thing he did excellent against Austin Lingo, and I think it would be a key to victory for him here too. So Austin Lingo is a flat-footed boxer, so he just comes forward the entire time, and Zalal just darts side to side. His movement looks so good in that fight that Lingo gets frustrated, can't time him, and when he gets a little over-aggressive and a little too reckless, he just times the takedown, takes him down. Perfect game plan. That game plan would work good against Choi. The difference is that when he would shoot those takedowns on Lingo, it would work first try, right? Initial entry, boom, take him down. If you watch Choi, they very rarely get him down on the first entry. They get him down on chain wrestling when they go to 2nd, 3rd attempts, and then they peel him to the ground, right? So to me, that says if Zalal goes there, darts side to side, and tries to shoot a couple takedowns, doesn't get them, this does stay standing. I think Choi's got a legitimate chance. So regardless of if you think, well, you know what, I think Zalal's move is too good. Zalal is a decision guy. If he takes you down, he doesn't seem to be submitting guys. If it stays standing, he doesn't throw a ton of volume. And Choi, meanwhile, for as much as I do like Choi and he throws a lot of strikes, maybe a decision guy as well. So when you look at this fight just to go the distance, minus 165. And yeah, I know you mentioned the over 2.5. That was good. I just chased, if it's going to go over 2.5, I'm just going to chase that full decision. Minus 165 seemed okay. But if you were going to back Choi, why not back Choi by decision? Plus 405. Ooh. God damn. If he does win, I think he does win a decision. And I think he's got a viable chance to win, right? Should he be the favorite in the spot? No. But should he be this big of an underdog? No. And so for that reason, live dog here on Choi, and just too much value to not at least have a look at.
I'm absolutely there with you. I have a lot of question marks regarding why the odds are as they are. I'm kind of just propping it up to people just parlaying Zalal at this point, thinking that he's a safe spot. All right, let's keep things moving along. We got Molly McCann coming back against Lara Procopio. The line is moving closer to a pick'em now, but it is still minus 145 for Molly McCann, plus 125 for Lara Procopio. And this is one of my favorite dogs on the card. I love me some Lara Procopio here. I think if people just solely watch her last fight against Karol, they're just going to be like, what are you talking about? Do some digging, peeps. Do some diggings. If you go and watch her regional tape, you see some good things in there. You see her actually using her black belt. I mean, that's the main thing in this fight, which is going to be a huge indicator as to why I believe she'll win this fight. Even after getting starched by Karol the way that she did, she still managed to land 160-something strikes, which is crazy. Karol, I think, outstruck her maybe by like 10 strikes or something like that. But obviously, the more devastating, damaging blows coming from Karol. Two things there, though. The fight was at 135 pounds, not the weight class that Procopio wants to be at. So now she's down at 125. And she's 25 years old. She's very young. She's still working really hard. She trains under Andre Pederneiras and those guys at Novo União. She's training with Ketlen Vieira on a day in and day out basis. I'd say that's a pretty damn good training partner to have, especially somebody that big to deal with the potential size that she might have to make up for. But her takedowns, like her body lock trip takedowns, are pretty freaking good on the regional scene. And I've seen Molly McCann succumb to some of those. She only has a 33% takedown defense. People are just making her out to be this next level wrestler after she goes out there and fucks Diana Belbita. You guys kidding me? Diana Belbita, the woman who has a significant striking advantage over Liana Jojo, and decides to take her down and then proceed to get armbarred right away. So let's just take that first and foremost. Then she comes into the Tyler Santos fight as a minus 160 favorite. Like, what the hell? That one was so weird. But regardless, she loses that fight. We see the true Molly McCann. She's a boxer. She's a striker. She's not a grappler. She was forced to go to grappling because she was getting outstruck. So now, for some reason, everybody thinks that she's this amazing wrestler. So sure, go out there and try to take down Procopio. See how that works out for you going up against this black belt. But I think it's going to be Procopio being the one that's successful in getting this fight to the ground. And I'm taking that stretch. I'm going. You want some ballsy props from your boy? I'm going with Procopio via sub. I like that spot, especially at plus 725. I think she's very live to go for it. She's subbing chicks on the regional scene. I know once you get to the UFC, it's a little bit different, but I truly don't think Molly McCann is that good, and I think she's going to be in a little bit of world of trouble. Now, Tyler Santos had some good spots on the ground against her, wasn't able to get the finish there, but I do think that Procopio might be a little bit more submission hunting than Tyler Santos was in that position. So I don't think McCann hits harder than Rosa. I don't think that she'll be able to put on a pace and pressure and output like Rosa. And I think she's going to get taken down. She's going to get controlled. And either she gets subbed or she loses this fight fighting off her back for the majority of it. So I like Procopio. I understand why people are on that plus 140. Now it's down to plus 125. I'm even going to take the shot on the sub prop at plus 725. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's another live underdog. Anytime you got a Molly McCann fight, realistically, it's going to be closer to a 50-50. Like she's not fully trustworthy in that. What does she do very well? Nothing. What does she do good? No, geez, not really anything. And you nailed it. When she came over from Cage Warriors, that was the mark on her. This girl is a boxer. She's going to be aggressive, in your face, great cardio, great pressure game, push, good boxing fundamentals. She'll be a good, a decent addition to the UFC roster. She comes to the UFC roster. She draws Jillian Robertson. She's a favorite. She's a sizable favorite over Jillian Robertson. Thing is, she's just a boxer. So she gets taken down by Jillian Robertson, submitted. It's that the fight since then, it turns out she's not a boxer. She has a 62-inch reach, right? So anybody that has good hands, but only 62-inch reach is still going to be coming up shit's creek, man. Like she comes up short on a lot of shots. So as a result, it seems like she's punching, but there's too much gap to close. And now she's getting touched up. And you look at the fight with Priscilla Cachoeira, right? Cachoeira is the laughingstock of the UFC. Why? I don't know. She lost to Valentina Shevchenko in devastating fashion. Yeah, right. What the hell? Like, so does everybody. But whatever. No big deal. Is she comes in against Cachoeira, and it's like, okay, the Molly McCann's gonna walk right through her. They're in England. This is an easy win for her. And she decides to use the boxing. Cachoeira's a little bit big, can't really take her down. I'm gonna use that boxing. I'm a boxer. Everyone talks about my boxing. Jillian Robertson fight I couldn't showcase. I'm gonna showcase it here. And she does land over 100 significant strikes, but she got hit 75 times back, right? And her eye swells shut. And most doctors probably stop the fight. Yeah. There's a minute and a half left, and they're in England, and the crowd's raucous, and she's up 2 rounds. So it's just like, let her die if she has to. She's got this in the bag otherwise. And they let her continue. And it's the right call, and she wins, and that's awesome. The thing there is that Cachoeira is super one-dimensional, super flat-footed, super plodding, and she's able to touch her up at will. And beyond that, Molly McCann wears damage really bad, right? A punch is not a punch for everybody. Some people, they don't wear it, right? John Jones is an example, right? Like, have you ever seen him cut? Have you ever seen him swollen? Have you ever seen him with like a shut eye? Like, no. And he's taken some shots, not necessarily 10 or 20 of them in the same fight, but like guys have lined him up and hit him with some good shots. And it's just like, no, he wears it well. Whereas you see the Nick Diaz's of the world, it's like one shot, it's like he's bleeding all over the places and his eyes are already starting to swell.
Yeah. Just blowing his face.
Molly McCann falls in that same category. And so I think when you're a judge and you're looking at a close fight and geez, they're going tit for tat, you go with the heavier strikes. And that's what happened to Procopio in her fight against Karol Rosa. Karol Rosa is a natural 35er. She's not the tallest 35er, but she's a thick, sturdy, strong 135er. Yeah. So fighting against this girl, it's like if you look at that fight, you rewatch that fight. You mentioned in your quick breakdown, you said people aren't high on her if they watched her last fight, but look at the body of work before that. No, man, I liked what I saw in that fight. The problem is that I really liked what I saw to Karol Rosa. She stands there and goes tit for tat with this girl. She throws everything at the kitchen sink, gets hit, throws it back. And it's like, she's a BJJ black belt. This fight should be on the ground. And yet she shows that willingness, like that Nova União heart. And is it the smartest thing to do? No. And when she's 30 years old, maybe it'll be a problem. But she's only 25, baby. She's got a full career ahead of her. I think she's most definitely a live dog. Then you look at the spots in this fight. It's like you got the Procopio by submission 750. That's ballsy. That's going for it. I took the coward's way out, but still got a plus 220. Still a plus 220 tag on Procopio by decision. Because honestly, how I see it playing out is that if the fight stays standing, there's just not a ton of knockout power out of either girls, so I see it going the distance. But Procopio's got the volume. She's got the length. Coming down to 125, I think she is going to bust her up and cause some of that damage. But the way to win is get the fight to the ground, just like you're saying. And I'm just hoping that when she does get the fight to the ground, if she gets the fight to the ground, that McCann just doesn't get subbed. Just don't get subbed. Just lose the fight on the ground. We seen against Taylor Santos, who turned out to be a badass. She took her down 5 times at will. But it's like, McCann wasn't a fish out of water off her back. She just couldn't get back up. So I'm really hoping that Procopio wins the decision. We got a dog hit right there. But beyond that, I'm going to chase another decision prop and go Procopio plus 220 by decision.
Yeah, I think this is a spot that a lot of people are loving the dog, hence the line movement for sure, right? All right, let's keep things moving along. The next fight up, we got somebody we were just talking about, Karol Rosa against Joselyn Edwards, who herself just fought a couple weeks ago, made her UFC debut against Wu Yanan. She comes out on the winning end with a decision. In terms of the odds here, we got minus 245 for Karol Rosa and plus 205 for Joselyn Edwards. Serious steamage coming in on Karol Rosa. And you nailed it when you talked about her before. Like, the Procopio fight was great, but Rosa looked amazing, and I'm a huge fan of her. She looked even better in her Vanessa Mello fight, where she was able to mix in a couple takedowns and show off a complete MMA game. I think this girl has a pretty decent future ahead of her. Like, she has the volume. She's throwing 260 plus strikes every single fight. The output is there. The durability is there. The training camp is there. She's training with Jessica Andrade and that PVR team down there in Brazil. I think she has a very high ceiling. Joselyn Edwards as well. I think she has potential, but stylistically, I think this is a tough fight. Now, this is almost similar to the Wu Yanan fight in terms of possible damage against output, but not only are you getting output with Karol Rosa, you're getting solid technique. You're getting great combinations, ending with kicks. Like, she has such a variety of strikes in her arsenal compared to Wu Yanan, who's just mainly just throwing punches out there, not really much method to her madness, whereas Karol Rosa, she knows what she's going for. She knows the combinations that she's going to be striking, and she can find those openings for takedowns when it's required. Joselyn Edwards, on the other hand, very offensive, very fun to watch too. Very good first round against Wu Yanan in terms of winning fans over. Very aggressive off her back. That's one worry that I have in this fight. If Karol Rosa does want to take this fight to the ground, I believe Rosa is a black belt, but still the offensive nature, and you mix in the MMA aspect to this jiu-jitsu equation, Joselyn Edwards could possibly catch her in something. But I like what I see from both women, but I'm slightly higher on Karol Rosa. Now, the line, in my opinion, a little bit too wide. I'm not a fan of playing minus 225 or minus 245 straight up on Karol Rosa. Possible parlay piece, but we are searching for props here. And the prop that I like the most, we're getting even money, plus 100, baby. Karol Rosa via decision. I think that's the spot to go with here. I think Edwards is quite durable. I think she'll be able to take the shots, but I think she's just not going to be able to live up or at least catch up to the work rate of a Karol Rosa, who's going to continue to be throwing combinations, not be deterred with what's coming back at her. So yeah, I like Karol Rosa plus 100 via decision. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. Edwards is not a bad fighter by any stretch. I mean, she looked UFC caliber in her debut. This is somebody that was talked about by a lot of fans in the regional scene being like, hey, keep your eye out on her. Joselyn Edwards has got legitimate skills. And then coming into the UFC, it's 50-50 fight against Wu Yanan. And you and I talked about it on the prop show. The fight was 50-50, but Joselyn Edwards by decision was plus 260. It just didn't really make sense. It was just like, if she's going to win this fight, it's likely going to be a decision. She goes out there, she does get the decision, but boy, oh boy, man, she's shown a refined game. I mean, the grappling looked on point for a fighter coming out of Panama, by way of Iowa, or coming out of Iowa by way of Panama. It's like, man, that armbar was tight. I mean, her aggressiveness on the ground, especially as far as standing up, she's got good kicks. She's got great footwork. She's slick. She's got good technical striking. But the two things, and listen, it was a near shutout performance, let's say, against Yanan. But the two things that I took out of that fight that I didn't particularly like against her is that you could press her up against the cage and outmuscle her against the cage. And Wu did it a little bit, just wasn't able to do much with it. The other thing too is that she'd have these lulls, like Edwards would attack and then just like lull and wait. And I remember thinking to myself, like, Wu just needs to attack. Like, does she have good cardio? She's got good cardio. Just like push the pace on her, do a little bit more. The judges will reward you for it. And she just didn't have it. She was just like already mentally defeated. But that's a 25-year-old Chinese fighter who hadn't fought in a year and a half and had limited skills to her disposal versus Karol Rosa, who, as I mentioned, the two things that I took away that Edwards may have not done great in that fight is two things that Karol Rosa excels at. Listen, as far as clinching up against the cage, she's strong, man. Yeah. This girl's real strong. And then as far as these lulls, there are no lulls. She just attacks all the time. She just keeps coming forward. So your best bet is to chin check her, but I don't think Edwards is going to knock her out. And then as far as the catching her in the submission, listen, she had a really couple nice-looking submission attempts against Wu, but nothing stuck, right? And now she's taking on a legitimate BJJ black belt out of Brazil who's 135 pounds and big and thick and strong. And Wu was someone who got out-muscled by Gina Mazzani like it was no problem. Like, now you're taking on a physical fighter who's got the experience, who's got 2 quality wins in the UFC, in which she, as you mentioned, threw over 250 significant strikes, and just has good cardio and has, her ring IQ leaves something to be desired. But like, when you have that much work rate and you're aggressive, like, you get away with making a couple errors here and there. And that's something that she does. So I think Edwards probably gets overwhelmed a little bit. I don't like the odds. I don't like the odds at minus 220 because Edwards just showed us that she's actually a quality fighter. She might look a little bit better this time around. The quick turnaround probably doesn't hurt her. She's got to shake some of that ring rust and inactivity off. That's all well and good. 220 is just not a very good price tag. But the plus 100 Rosa by decision, I'm in on that.
Yeah, baby.
Because I seen Rosa on top of Vanessa Mello, and there was still no submission, right? So yeah, as far as like high level submissions, like, maybe that's not on the table. And I seen her absolutely batter 2 girls pillar to post with her best punches. And they also live to tell the tale. So I would say if she's gonna win this fight against Edwards, who's pretty tough, that she's probably going to win it by decision. If you don't feel like going that route, and it's chalky, but the fight to just go the distance, right? You don't agree with Rosa. You don't agree with the price. You like Edwards. If Edwards is going to win, she couldn't put away Wu. She's not putting away this girl. So again, it would be an Edwards by decision. You'd be covered both sides, but it's minus 205. It's not a great price tag, but fight goes the distance. Minus 205 is probably one of those like safer plays on the card, I would think.
Yeah, no, I like Rosa. Pretty much playing her by decision is like playing her straight up almost. Like, I don't think she's going to finish Edwards here. I think she has a bright future. Very much looking forward to what she brings to the table. All right. The theme of this show has been short notice step-ups. And we got another one coming up right here. We got Davonte Smith coming back after getting knocked out as a minus 1,000 favorite. Taking a lot of time off, finally coming back. He's stepping in against Justin Jaynes, who last time he stepped in on short notice, he shocked the world and knocked out Frank Camacho as a pretty hefty underdog. Now, this fight, let's talk about the odds first and foremost. I do think that they're a little bit out of whack. Minus 300 Smith, plus 250 on Jaynes. Man, this fight could be very sketchy from both sides. Like, if you want to go out there and parlay Davonte Smith at minus 300, there is a chance he could get knocked the hell out in round 1. There is absolutely a chance. Now, I am the biggest Justin Jaynes hater there, and I mean that from strictly a business standpoint. I'm sure he's a great guy, but from a business standpoint, I've cashed on him very heavily the last 2 times. This fight, though, I'm going to stay the hell away from because both guys throw bombs. Both guys have knockout power. Both guys have sketchy chins, but I got to say the sketchier chin is probably Davonte Smith, as he's the one that went out clean from a shot, whereas Justin Jaynes, the last time he got finished, Gabriel Benitez, that was a body shot. Last time he got finished before that, Gavin Tucker got dropped by a shot and then eventually submitted. We haven't seen him like completely out in the UFC or anything like that. Davonte Smith, on the other hand, that shot was money. If Justin Jaynes landed that shot, he's probably going to go out too, right? So I'm thinking, like, fight ends in round 1. Whatever that prop is probably going to be a proper spot. I don't see this fight going over 1.5. I highly doubt we're going to see a grapple-heavy approach from either guy here. I don't think Justin Jaynes has the gas tank to try to implement his wrestling, which he does have in his back pocket, but there's a reason he took this fight at 160 pounds. He's not cutting down to 155. He doesn't want to make that weight because he's taking this fight on short notice. So what did he do last time he came in on short notice? I started off the breakdown with it. Goes out there and knocks out Frank Camacho because he knows that's probably his best path to victory. Let's go out there, put my paws on this guy, and if he goes down, I win. If he doesn't, I stepped in on short notice. Win-win situation for me. I'm getting paid regardless. Doesn't matter. I think Justin Jaynes has the power in his hands to potentially put out Davonte Smith. Then you have to take into consideration the physical attributes. I mean, you got Davonte Smith, obviously the much more explosive fighter, quicker, faster, is going to have a reach advantage. So maybe he gets in and out with his shots before Jaynes is able to hit him with anything. But what if Jaynes just stands there, bites down on his mouthpiece, and just counters him and just deads him like that? So the spot that I was looking at, there's nothing I'm touching on this fight except this one spot. We got Justin Jaynes to win inside round 1 at plus 625. Tell me that's not intriguing. Yeah, that is a pretty intriguing prop, right? If he's going to win at all, it's a first round knockout. So if you want to get even, if you want to get even greedier and go with Justin Jaynes via knockout in round 1, I believe that prop is currently sitting at plus 1,400. Oh no, wait, so that's sub by KO plus 600. So even if you just take him round 1, plus 625. I think that's a solid spot regardless. Even Davonte Smith in round 1, I think that's a little bit too chalky at this point. Smith in round 1 there's no way that's plus 1,200. What? How does that make sense? Man, what?
I don't know. That sounds like it's off, but I was going to say Davonte Smith by knockout is minus 150, right? So if you were going to take him in the first round, you're going to get a plus money play out of it.
I'll for the sake of making a pick, I'm going to say Davonte Smith round 1, but there's absolute value on Justin Jaynes in round 1 at plus 625. Let me know how you feel about this fight.
Yeah, dude, I agree. Justin Jaynes has got one path to victory, and that's bulldoze forward and try to get the knockout. I mean, it worked against Frank Camacho. Again, he's on short notice. And then his other fights, when he's the Gavin Tucker fight, he comes at Gavin Tucker and he hurts Gavin Tucker. Yeah. But then when Gavin doesn't go down, it's like, like Tucker's game kind of goes south. And then in the Benitez fight, Gabriel Benitez just levels above Justin Jaynes' technical striking, and he's able to pick him apart. The thing is that Jaynes just shows just that knockout loss. And like you were saying, it's like, oh, dude, he got hurt to the body. And then the Gavin Tucker fight, man, he was hurt, but he got submitted. The Frank Camacho fight only lasts 41 seconds. Man, Jaynes is bleeding everywhere. Like, he got nailed. Go ahead.
Dude, he was bleeding. Actually, it was an inadvertent headbutt that caused the cut. So he didn't even get hit. He got hit, but that cut came from a headbutt. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So then I rewatch his regional show fights, and he beats this I think it's Devin Brown. Anyways, he gets rocked. And then this Tommy Aaron fight, he gets rocked. So this is a guy that routinely gets rocked. But you know what? He's able to overcome it because he's fighting lower level guys. He comes to the UFC. He jumps right in Camacho's face. Huge win at the time. Underdog, short notice, like 3 or 4 days notice. Awesome victory, signature win. I think he gets a performance bonus as well. That's all well and good. The loss to Tucker, as we mentioned, that's a top guy. And the loss to Gabriel Benitez, who is a consummate journeyman gatekeeper, but an excellent journeyman gatekeeper. That's not a bad loss as well. Like, those aren't bad losses. Losing Davonte Smith, he's no better than them. So again, this is a very winnable fight for Jaynes. My issue is that, he's short notice. He's probably just going to try to run in the fire and make something happen right away. And for Davonte Smith, he's got a tremendous amount of power. He's got a tremendous amount of first round knockout ability. And you see that in his UFC career. Dana White's contender series, first round knockout. A Julian Rosa, who laugh all you want. It's like Julian Rosa is, again, one of these, not a great as gatekeeper as Gabriel Benitez, but one of these guys that finds ways to win, is a tricky fighter, can't be overlooked, and just goes out there and sparks him. You see that power. Then he draws Kama Worthy. That one's super interesting because him and Kama Worthy actually used to be friends. They were training partners, and they were on really friendly terms. Kama Worthy takes the fight for Clay Collard on like 4 days notice. This is his UFC debut. He's like mid-30s at this point. Most people didn't think Kama Worthy would get to the UFC. This is his big chance. And for Davonte Smith, the fight starts and he's not even trying to hit him. He's frozen. He's just like staring at this guy like he feels bad. And for Kama Worthy, he's like, fuck you, bitch, this is my dream. And just nails him one because this is his dream. I want to make it here. And he does. And it's just like, boom, hits Davonte Smith and puts him out. But one has to wonder if Davonte Smith didn't not pull the trigger because he's like, man, I know this guy's a friend of mine. This is his dream. I don't really want to hurt him. And I know when I let these hands go, I hurt people. He just didn't fight like himself. Now you give the guy a 1.5 years off. You give him all the time in the world, clear the cobwebs, refocus, work on the tools. And Justin Jaynes isn't going to wait for you to come and think about hitting him. He's just going to come right at you. And so this is going to be a fun fight. Under 1.5 looks like the move. Under 2.5 is not even a playable price tag because everybody knows this fight ain't going the distance. Jaynes is the plus money play, right? That's the attractiveness. But I chase a couple big plus money plays later. I have the underdogs that I like. I'm like you. As much as I could see value in Justin Jaynes, I don't bet the value in Justin Jaynes because I ain't a Justin Jaynes guy. Not happening. And so for that reason, I do have to take Smith. Smith straight up money line. No chance. Smith by KO minus 150. That's how you improve that. And I would think the typo is probably Smith round 1 is plus 120. Not plus 1,200, like probably just like an extra 0 on that. But if your book's screwed up and they'll honor it, you jump on that bitch right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I saw it, it's definitely a typo here on Best Fight Odds, which is usually my holy grail for the odds. All right, great fight. Like we said, I like Jaynes round 1, but again, I am picking Smith to win this fight. That's the only value you're going to get if you take Jaynes round 1. All right, let's keep things moving along. Another short notice fight. On tap here, we got Timur Valiev against Martin Day. Martin Day stepping in on short notice. First off, props to Martin Day for taking this fight. The guy's on a pretty bad skid right now. He's 0-3, winless in the UFC, and steps in here to possibly save his job. And I say that even if he loses, I think it would be hard pressed for the UFC to be like, peace out, dude. You're doing us a favor here, coming in as a pretty hefty underdog here. You're like plus 300. You're pretty much being brought in to lose to keep Valiev, active here. Minus 370, like I said, for Timur Valiev, plus 310 for Martin Day. I think people might be reading a little bit too far into Valiev's last fight against Trevin Jones. The guy had him hurt almost finished him, literally threw everything, including the kitchen sink at this guy, still was not able to put him out. And you don't really see that normally from Valiev. That's a very uncharacteristic trait or scenario that we saw him in that fight. Because in that second fight, in that second round, we see him go out there. Obviously looks depleted. He definitely emptied the gas tank in that first round. And then Trevin Jones catches him with a nice shot, puts him out. Martin Day, good technical striker, but just makes these bad fight IQ decisions that you're just like, dude, what's wrong? Like his fight with Davy Grant, literally getting hit with the same combination the entire fight. And then in the third round, that same combination is the one that puts him away. Like he does nothing to try to adjust to the combinations that Davy Grant's throwing at him. Then his next fight, Anderson Dos Santos, gets up after getting taken down, gets up and for some reason decides to, I'm going to turn into a wrestler. Takes this guy, picks him up over his head and tries to drop him to the ground. And in doing so, leaves his chin or his neck on a silver platter for BJJ black belt, Mr. Anderson Dos Santos, who takes that neck home with him. Here, I think he's pretty much all matched everywhere. I think Valiev is the better striker, has much better versatility to his madness in terms of his striking. Likes to spin every now and then, but he makes his bread and butter with his wrestling as well too. He can take the fight to the ground. He can ground you out. Most of his wins have come via decision. That's the type of fighter that people should expect when you're watching a Timur Valiev fight. And Martin Day seems like a pretty prototypical opponent for a guy for Valiev to go out there and do exactly just that. So I like Valiev here. The price tag's a little bit too wide for me. I don't mind if you go out there and parlay him at that minus 370 line, but I think we're going to see a much safer approach from him here, just for him to go out there and get his hand raised. I don't think he's worried about potentially having chin issues. Again, I truly think that was due to the fact that he was absolutely emptied the gas tank in that first round against Trevin Jones. So Valiev via decision is the spot that I'm looking at, and it's plus 185. That's not too shabby. I don't mind that line at all. How do you see in this fight?
Valiev was definitely a decision guy. I mean, throughout the course of his career, he's got finishing ability, but for the most part, I mean, he takes on decent level of competition. These fights are more often not going to decision. And then, yeah, the Trevin Jones fight, it's like he is a dynamic striker. And listen, he's a dynamic striker. He loves to throw everything, he'll throw spinning attacks, he'll throw wheel kicks, he'll throw axe kicks, he'll throw rangy strikes, he'll throw all types of things in his arsenal, right? But you never see him just go out for a first round finish. Now he's like a 6-1 favorite over Trevin Jones. Everybody and their mom thinks he's going to win. He goes out there, he puts a beating on Trevin Jones in that first round. And then the second round, was it that he was tired? Very possible. Was it that he was like, oh, this isn't working, so I'm going to go to plan B, and that's pace myself off, and got caught off guard? Like, I don't know. But he got caught by a nasty right hook, and Trevin Jones put him down. And Trevin Jones is a legit fighter for sure, but I just don't think people thought Valiev was going to lose in that manner. And so now coming back in any fight, you got to think, okay, does he have a chin issue? Could he get caught? The guy's name's Timur Lucky Valiev. That's even unlucky like a UFC debut as far as I'm concerned. Just got caught by that shot. But it's important to note that Trevin Giles ended up getting a no contest out of it when he popped for marijuana. It was when I was in high school. They always used to say, if you take the test, if you study for the test high and you take the test high, then you're going to get high scores. So this guy trains for the fight high. He fights the fight high, and he gets high results. First round, second round KO.
He probably signed the contract high.
Yeah. Who am I fighting? Who am I fighting? Tim UFC? Value? I'll fight Tim Value. All right, sign me up. And then boom, catch this guy. And then the next day when you're like, what happened yesterday? Boom, I just defeated this man. Huge win. Unfortunately, yeah, bullshit no contest is what it is. But Valiev at least does that little bit. You got to be worried. Martin Day, he just doesn't look like he's got the skills. I mean, he's a Taekwondo black belt. You see lots of flashes of that flashy striking, glimpses of it. He's another guy that'll throw spinning attack, but he doesn't pace himself. Similar to Valiev in his debut, sometimes he'll just go out there and kind of unload his strikes, throw some of these spinning attacks at the wrong time, get taken down, or he'll just kind of blow his load and get tired. And I coined it on the term on Dog or Pass last week. In Canada, as a hockey player, it's called the Gordie Howe hat trick, right? You score a goal, you get an assist, you fight a guy. That's their Gordie Howe hat trick, because Gordie Howe, that's how he would have done it. So this is the Martin Day. You get 3 fights in the UFC, you get submitted, you get knocked out, you drop a decision. That's the Martin Day. Like, he just hasn't given a very good account of himself. The Pingyu Liu fight, that's his debut. Probably his best look, right? Loses a split decision, relatively close fight. But Davy Grant, man, Davy Grant was way too much for him. And by the way, I was on Team Davy Grant there. Sizable underdog to Martin Day. But he's able to tire this guy out and eventually knocks him out of all things. Davy Grant knocks him out of all things. And then his last fight against Anderson Dos Santos. Again, Anderson Dos Santos doesn't have any striking. He's very flat-footed, doesn't move his head. But he is a BJJ black belt. And he's real strong. And like, why go to that? Why fight that fight with him? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Now you're taking a short notice fight against Timur Valiev, who, by the way, is one of the chief sparring partners for Frankie Edgar, who you're going to see in the co-main event. It's like, does this not scream you want Timur Valiev? And then if it didn't, maybe it didn't, Martin Day's moving up weight class to take this fight. So now it does. You take Timur Valiev. I agree.
Yeah, no, I love Timmy in the spot for sure as well. All right, we're pretty much halfway through the stream now. I just do want to remind you guys, for the 183 live viewers that we currently have, make sure you guys hit that like, make sure you guys hit that subscribe. That's the best way you guys can show us support, as well as staying active in the chat. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Speaking about the chat, I do want to bring up a comment leading us into this next fight. We do have Danilo Marquez versus Mike Rodriguez, minus 235 on slow Mike Rodriguez, plus 195 on the fourth worst fighter in UFC history, because my guy Ryan Diamond lets us know that Khadisi Ibragimov, who Danilo Marquez just beat, was the third worst fighter in UFC history. I'm putting Danilo Marquez at number 4 because that guy is hot garbage. That guy's hot garbage. He's 35 years old. He's tall, 6'6". He's known as Shogun, who was jiu-jitsu coach. Okay, I'm just letting that one settle in for you guys real quick. Black belt under Damian Maia. You know, spit in the face of Damian Maia, because this guy looks like, even on the regional scene when he's fighting complete tomato cans, he's having absolute difficulties trying to submit some of these guys. He's completely way bigger than some of these dudes, yet still struggling to submit them. He goes on to eventually submit them, but you expect a guy of his stature and his physicality to be able to take these guys out much easier, but he just can't. In the Khadisi Ibragimov fight, we just see them lay on each other for like 15 minutes. Danilo Marquez shows no sense of urgency in terms of looking for a submission or anything like that. The last time we saw him fight a relatively decent guy in the striking realm was Myron Dennis, former tough fighter. I believe he was in Glory as well, but we never really saw him completely commit to his strikes. I thought, like, we didn't really see him go out there and throw with much pop or power on his shots, which is what I think allowed Danilo Marquez to survive that full 15 minutes. It was a bit of a slop fest, let's be honest. If you guys watched that fight, it wasn't the greatest fight. Split decision win for Myron Dennis. Definitely not the best Myron we've ever seen. Now he takes a bunch of time off, gets signed to the UFC. You got to believe it's the Shogun Rua connection, right? Why is the UFC signing a guy that's 35 years old that has the skill set of this guy? So great. He's a black belt. Great. He's great. Like, he's big. Great that he's training out of King's MMA. Again, Shogun Rua tie with Rafael Cordero there. I think this guy gets starched, absolutely starched in his first round by Mike Rodriguez. I think people are writing off Mike just a little bit too harshly over his last 2 fights. So we're talking about, or his last 4 fights, I should say. He's 1-3 in his last 4 fights. Let me just go through that real quick for you guys and let's dissect it a little bit. And I'll try to do it quickly. So John Allen loses a 3-round fight against him. John Allen on the saucy sauce. Gets popped for a USADA right after that. But John Allen mixes the MMA game way better than a guy like Danilo Marquez does. Marquez has no hands. The guy is a jiu-jitsu guy. He dives for takedowns with desperation, tries to get the fight to the ground, and doesn't even try to pull off a submission. He just goes up there and tries to control you. So that's the John Allen fight. I'll chalk that one up to Mike Rodriguez not being prepared for a guy who has a full MMA game like John Allen, nor prepared for a guy that was on the sauce. Da Un Jung, both guys hit hard. It's a light heavyweight fight. Sure, one guy's going to go down. Unfortunately for Mike Rodriguez, it was him. Am I expecting Danilo Marquez to go out there and rock this guy and drop him? No, that's not happening. I don't think so. Marcin Prachnio, we see him finally get back on the winning track. Beautiful elbows in the clinch, puts him out like a light bulb. It was great. We see the power in his kicks. We see the power in his elbows and his punches. Mike Rodriguez is a mean striker. He's a very powerful striker. And then Ed Herman. Ooh, the Ed Herman fight. Oh, he finishes him twice. And I say twice because the first time, the phantom nut shot, I'm not blaming Ed Herman. I'm blaming the ref. You know what I mean? That's the ref's fault. The ref screwed that call up. Great on Ed Herman to play that up and be the savvy veteran that he is. Gets to that. Then the third round starts. Mike Rodriguez gets him down and just pummels this guy, just bouncing his head off the mat. Almost any other ref that's not named Chris Taioni is probably stopping that fight. Like, Chris Taioni wants to see a dead body in there. He absolutely has been blowing a ton of claws during this whole COVID era, especially during this COVID era. So Mike Rodriguez, another theme, this whole card, guys blowing the gas tanks, trying to put guys away. And again, he put this guy away twice. So obviously his gas tank is going to be compromised. 14 minutes into the fight, like 13 minutes into the fight, and then he gets Kimura by a very savvy vet in Ed Herman, who saw his spot and took advantage of it. No way in hell am I expecting Danilo Marquez to be able to pull off a Kimura after getting pounded on for 14 minutes. That's not happening. I fully expect Mike Rodriguez to go out there, finish this guy in the first round, plus 165 for Rodriguez in round one. The KO prop, I think, is minus 150. You know me, I like chasing a little, I like to be a little bit greedier. I don't mind that plus 165 on Rodriguez in round one. I think he smokes this guy. Yeah. What do you think? Am I crazy?
No, I got to agree with you. The only one thing with Mike Rodriguez is now he's entering the territory where he's untrustworthy, right? We've seen him lose in a magnitude of ways. He's lost that decision to John Allen where he just got taken down by a relatively new fighter, very inexperienced, didn't really have much of a game, but is able to mix it up, like you said, and take him down. And when the decision, he was on juice, okay. The Dong Jung fights, like he gets knocked out in less than a minute. Dong Jung's a brawler, right? He's got heavy hands. He's got decent boxing, but it's like he's going to come at you and throw them hands. He gets caught. He gets knocked out. And then he had Herman fights, like he gives up the submission in a fight that he's dominating, in a fight that he's got this guy out, maybe twice. It's like he's still getting submitted. But Ed Herman's a decent black belt, by the way. The problem that I have is the first round against Ed Herman, he wins easy, right? I mean, Ed Herman's just way too slow, doesn't have much to offer him. The second round could be a 10-8 round if the judges consider that should have been a stoppage. Definitely not Ed Herman's fault. And I agree with you 1,000%. Not Ed Herman's fault. Chris Chione's fault. The same reason why it's not Diego Sanchez's fault that Michel Pereira knees him in the head and he takes the DQ win. Why? Because he's going to lose otherwise. It's a veteran savvy move. People call it puss shit. Not puss shit, veteran shit. And see, that's the difference between Danilo Marquez and Ed Herman. Ed Herman's a 25-fight UFC veteran. Ed Herman's the runner-up of season 2 of The Ultimate Fighter against Kendall Grove. Like, this guy's been around forever, and he has a legitimate BJJ black belt, and he was a former collegiate wrestling standout out of Portland, Oregon, and he's got okay boxing. He's just really slow at this stage in his career. But he's got all those things. Danilo Marquez doesn't have any of those variables. Like, he's got the BJJ black belt, but he's not as good as Herman. He can't strike at all. His cardio seems extremely lackluster. His wrestling's non-existent. 6'6", he's extremely hittable. And then taking that fight against Kaiser Bragimov made no sense. Dude had no significant wins and was coming off a 2.5-year break. Hadn't fought in 2.5 years. And then it turns out they give him up the layup of all layups. Kaiser Bragimov. Can't buy a win. You couldn't fix a fight for that guy to win. And so, yeah, he wins that fight. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Now he's got Mike Rodriguez. Mike should just cut right through him. Sure. And I agree. And I got Mike Rodriguez, and I got Mike Rodriguez on the KO prop, which is minus 150, because I think he's gonna catch him. He's gonna knock this guy out. The one thing is Mike Rodriguez. He's now in that territory of untrustworthy. And so you beat Herman in the first round, clear. You beat Herman in the second round, very clear. In the third round, Herman's done. Why initiate the grappling with Ed Herman? Why are you trying to grapple with him? But like you said, he's bouncing his head like a basketball, and it's like, oh, this fight's going to get stopped. And that's all well and good. But he was fighting into the guy's only chance at winning is a Hail Mary submission. And you're playing right into that hand. And so with Danilo, or with Marquez, no doubt about it, Mike Rodriguez kicks his ass. But Rodriguez is heavy because he's 6'6", big guy. When he does end up on top of you, if he ends up on top of you, he is a heavy guy. And Rodriguez doesn't got great BJJ. If Marquez goes out there and takes him down, he's going to have a lot of success. The thing is that I don't think he's got wrestling. I don't think he's got cardio. I don't think he's got any of those things. I think Mike Rodriguez chops him up. It's that Mike's not one of these guys I can, with confidence back, be like, oh, I know he's going to go out there and do it. It's like he could get caught. He could get taken down. He could get submitted. He could get tired. That's a lot of variables to be banking on a guy as like, oh, my lock of the night. This is my guy. However, skill is skill. Tape is tape. Recency bias, whatever. Mike Rodriguez is a superior fighter. He should go out there and knock this man out within 2.5 rounds. It's that what you think should happen, what you believe should happen, not always what does happen. Mike Rodriguez knows that firsthand.
For sure. If somehow Danilo Marquez pulls off a 3rd-round submission victory over this, I'm just going to, that meme where the guy just flips over his desk? That's going to be me. I'm going to make a meme of myself just like, are you kidding me? There's no way this happens. Two fights in a row, especially against the 4th shittiest fighter in UFC history. All right, let's keep things moving along. We got I believe this is the prelim headliner. There's a lot of shuffling going on. But either way, we got a little bit of a shit fest here. We got Michael Johnson against Clay Guida in terms of odds. We got, obviously, Michael Johnson at a little bit of chalk at minus 225. Clay Guida at plus 185. Want to talk about untrustworthy fighters? Whew. Let's just take into the consideration that Michael Johnson at one point, after beating Edson Barboza, is 16-8. That was about 6 years ago. Now we're in 2021. He's fighting Clay Guida with a 19-16 record, meaning that he went like what was that 3-8 in his last 11 fights. absolutely crazy the stretch that this guy is on, because he is skilled. He is absolutely skilled. Everybody can agree on that. On the feet, this guy looks like one of the best strikers in the UFC, bar none. His technique is amazing. He has some power every now and then, but technically speaking, he can go out there and outbox pretty much anybody on any given night. It's just that one little slip up that could potentially just screw him over. The Thiago Moises fight, his last fight. You know what I mean?
All of
lights
them.
him up.
All of them.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not even go through it. He pretty much slips up in every single fight. The most concerning one to me, especially in preparation for this fight, is the Stevie Ray one. You know what I mean? That third round gets controlled. That entire third round gets 10-8, and I think at least one or two of the judges' scorecards there. But how do you slip up for that much for that long? And I think I got to give Clay Guida the slight grappling advantage when it comes to him against Stevie Ray. And even here, I think Clay Guida has a grappling advantage here as well, too. I think Clay could make it a very dirty fight. I think he can push him up against the cage. I think he can take it down. That depends on if his chin can hold up. Because Michael Johnson, if he lands one of those shots, he's definitely going out. Am I trusting my money on Michael Johnson at minus 225? Hell no. Am I going to put money on Clay Guida at plus 185? Hell no. So let's look at a prop that we could potentially do here. It's tough to say the over, because Michael Johnson could absolutely nuke him here. The over is 2.5 at minus 225. Even that's chalky. There's really nothing I like about this fight from a props perspective, man, because it could go either way. Either Johnson nukes him in the first, Clay Guida goes out there and decisions him just by controlling him pretty much the entire time. So just by that facet, and what I've been predicting this whole week is Clay Guida to win this fight via decision at plus 270. But I'm not willing to risk my money on Clay Guida, who's like clearly not just on the tail end of his career. What's behind the tail? Because like he's way back there. He's done. I'm going Guida decision, like I said, plus 270, but not sexy enough for me to really pull the trigger. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, so notoriously, Clay Guida's got cardio for days, and he's got wrestling for days. And even though he's 39 years old, he's definitely at the tail end. It's like those two things are all you theoretically need to defeat Michael Johnson. You just need to have more than 1 round cardio, because he's only got 1 round cardio, and you need to take him down, man. Yeah, he's a junior college wrestler. When he was on The Ultimate Fighter, remember way back when, GSP versus Koscheck, he was billed as a wrestler on the show. But at some point, dude was like, oh my God, I got this gift in my hands, and just start letting them fly. If I told you, man, Preacher Haas, I said, listen, I know a guy who's defeated Tony Ferguson, right? I know a guy that nuked Dustin Poirier in the very first round. I know a guy that beat Edson Barbosa, pillar to post, 15 minutes of pure striking, kicked this man's fucking ass. I know a guy, the only guy that actually landed a punch on Khabib Nurmagomedov. The only guy that actually landed one. Didn't hurt him as bad as some of the commentators may have thought. But the only guy that's really landed clean flush on him. And that same guy had a 1-round war, almost knocked out Justin Gaethje, and got fight of the year for it, right? That guy's a top 10 lightweight of all time. Is he not?
I thought he'd be a champion. That's a champion, right?
This guy shows up sometimes, and he is a champion. He looks tremendous. He was like a 3-1 favorite over Nate Diaz, and they were going to give him a title fight. And Nate Diaz just kicked the shit out of him, because it's like he gets to that point and he overthinks it a little bit. And I wish I could find the piece. The UFC did a piece where they go with Michael Johnson to a luxury sports car place. And it's before the Nate Diaz fight, and he's headlining the card, and they got him driving around these like $300,000 cars. And he's like, when I'm champion, I'm going to drive one of these, but I test drive these now to keep me hungry. And it's like, dude, you are thinking way too far, man. And why would you buy that kind of car on a fighter's salary? Like, not a good investment. Anyways, Michael Johnson was thought that he's going to do these great things. And then it's not that, he does have those big wins. He does have all that. But you look at the Thiago Moises fight. Man, that's a 10-8 round in the first round. Michael Johnson looks phenomenal. He looks tremendous. And then, Moises rolls for a leg lock, and sure enough, he gets an ankle lock. Submits him. Shit. The Stevie Ray fight, man, in the first round, he looks really good. Second round, he tires. He starts getting taken down. The third round, it's 1-1. This is your time to go get this fight, man. And he just lets it slip away. Gets taken down and literally spends 3 minutes just like staring off into nothingness, being like, I don't know what to do, okay? The Josh Emmett fight, he's styling on Josh Emmett for 2 rounds. He's winning the fight. And he gets nuked in the third round. It's like, shit, man. The Darren Elkins fight, he wins the first round against Darren Elkins. And in the second round, and then see, the Elkins fight is the most specific to me, because Elkins matches up very similar to Clay Guida. He's got a great gas tank. He's got a pretty solid chin. He's got pretty okay wrestling. And even though he gets beaten in the first round, he keeps pushing it. But the one thing I've noticed is that Michael Johnson hasn't been an underdog in a fight in like 5 or 6 years, right? He's a favorite every time out. This is no different. But the main thing is Johnson never loses the first round. And so live betting, Johnson's always like an 8-1 favorite after the first round. He just looks so good. So if Clay survives the first round, now is when Clay becomes live. If Clay gets nuked in the first round, I guess I wouldn't be overly surprised. Johnson can do that to a man. But if Clay gets out of that first round, Johnson's power drops off. Johnson's cardio drops off. Johnson's takedown defense drops off. And when Johnson does get taken down, he's a fish out of water. And you look at the 2 wins that he does have, right? He defeated Artem Lobov. He was a 7-1 favorite. And it was not a good-looking fight. And he defeated Andre Fili on a split. But you rewatch that fight, Fili's taking him down. Fili's out grappling him. Fili probably does win that fight. But Johnson ekes one out. It's like Clay can make this close. And how many times does Johnson screw it up as a favorite? This is just another one. They're trying to get you to pay $220 for it. Like, I would say, I looked at the props. I agree with you. I don't like any of the props here. I really don't. If you're going to chase one, you say maybe Johnson by knockout, but it's minus 150. And Clay's traditionally had a really good chin. So I don't want that prop. It's not good enough. I don't want it. There's really no prop that I chase on this one in specific. If anything, I'd look to bet after the round 1, a Clay Guida. And yeah, sure enough, you might get him at like 4-1, 5-1, 6-1 after a round or 2. And yeah, he'd be live to come back. But honestly, in terms of props, I don't like this fight.
Yeah, even for like my degenerate Hail Mary parlays that I like to put together, I'm going to leave this fight out. Like, I'm just completely just so confused on it that I'm just like, I'm good. All right, let's move on to the main card now, where we got the people's main event kicking things off. I'm very, very excited for this fight. I can't wait to hear what you got to say about it, Cody. But I'll kick things off as always. We got Beneil Dariush coming in at minus 105, and we got Carlos Diego Ferreira coming in at minus 115. The line just keeps slightly moving towards Ferreira, and then it comes back to even. Slightly to Ferreira, and then back to even. So I'm on the Ferreira side. I'll kick it off with that. I love the improvements that we've been seeing from him since his fight with Benny the first time around. After that, he goes out there, gets knocked out by Dustin Poirier. But do you really expect him to get that much better? That after the Beneil Dariush fight is the fight that he went over to Fortis MMA. But do you really expect him to go out there and get that much better, especially against a guy like Dustin Poirier? Do I really need to continue to stroke off Dustin? We know what the hell he's good at, right? With Benny though, since that Poirier fight, man, the guy has looked amazing. In his 3 fights that have gone to a decision, you're talking about a guy that's averaging over 260 strikes thrown. That's been the pinnacle of his game now, which is like, keep moving forward, stay in the guy's face, don't let them breathe, and just don't give them any space to get comfortable or get their own game off. The one that really stood out to me the most was the Mirbek Taisumov fight, because I'm a huge Taisumov fan. I truly thought that guy had a little bit of a high ceiling, but inactivity truly killed that guy's career, in my opinion. But we saw Diego Ferreira go out there and beat him at his own game. Everybody's like, oh, Diego Ferreira plus 200 underdog. The only way he wins this fight is if he gets Taisumov to the ground and uses his jiu-jitsu. What does he do? Goes out there and just stays in Taisumov's face, doesn't let him breathe, doesn't let him get comfortable, and just keeps sticking the jab out there, the 1-2, whatever it is, staying persistent. And I think a huge part of that is Save Sayud, is Fortis MMA, which is why I call this guy Fortis Ferreira now. The guy is just going out there and putting on a quintessential game plan for every single one of his fights. The only time you see him using his grappling and his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu is when he knows he has an absolute advantage, and that's the end all be all for that matchup, and specifically the last matchup against Anthony Pettis. We know Anthony Pettis has nothing for it when guys are able to pressure him that way and take him down and possibly submit it, exactly what CDF did there. And that submission was like, I don't know if you remember that submission, but he had it like it was a rear naked choke, but from the side. Like it didn't even look like he had it the tightest. But either way, he gets Anthony Pettis out of there. I'm loving what we're seeing from Ferreira, and I think if he's able to survive that first round, because Beneil Dariush for some reason is just like, screw game plans, let's just get into firefights, let's bring in the heat, let me collect a fight of the night bonus, even if I'm the one getting knocked out. And that's the key thing here as well too. Like, what if he was the one that got knocked out by Jakar Close? Because he ate some big shots in that fight. He was the one on wobbly legs a little bit. Luckily for him, his durability held up enough that he was able to put the pain right back on Jakar Close. Same with the Scott Holtzman fight, right? Like, this could easily be Beneil Dariush coming off of 2 losses. I'm not liking the style that we're seeing from Benny as of late. Sure, it's entertaining. Sure, it's great chaos and fun for us as fans to watch. But for the longevity of his career, he's 31 years old. You know, he's getting the closest he's ever been to a title shot at this point in time. But I don't know the longevity of this type of fighting style. So does he come out here and try to replicate the same game plan that he had in the first fight against CDF? I'm not 100% sure he'll be able to pull it off to that effectiveness anymore, as I think we see CDF way more comfortable now. Like, when you watch that fight, he's just not, he's herky-jerky on the feet. Like, he's a little stiff. He doesn't just look comfortable on the feet at all. Now you look at him, the guy's switching stances, the guy's throwing whatever else. Like, you just see like he's fully realized his potential in the striking realm. So that's where I think the difference is. And we've also seen, the last thing I'll say about this fight, when Benny does go out there and throw cash into the wind, you see him start to suck wind a little bit. And that's a little bit concerning here against a guy like Ferreira, who does put pressure on, doesn't gas, is able to keep that pace and keep going at you. So if Benny tries to take out CDF in that first round and is not able to, I think he's in for a world of hurt over the next 2 rounds. But I'm going with CDF here. I think he wins this fight by decision. I'll give Benny Dariush some slack in terms of his durability. And we got Ferreira via decision at plus 245. And that's not a spot I don't mind at all. I think Ferreira goes out there, puts on that game plan that we've seen for this Ferreira over the last 6 fights and win this fight via decision. How do you have it, dude?
Yeah, you know what? I got to disagree with this one. I went the other way, although you're making a lot of really good points and definitely make me second guess myself. But the thing with Carlos Diego Ferreira is that, yeah, he's got skills everywhere. So he's a 3rd degree BJJ black belt, and his technical boxing has come a long way. He used to throw those. Just look back at the Poirier fight. I know it's just the Poirier, but everything he throws is like he ducks his head down and just chucks over the top. Now it's like, oh man, he's actually throwing nice, technical, good, sound combinations. He doesn't have to worry about his wrestling game because, like, what are you going to do? Take him down? Like, why would you want to do that? He's so good on the ground. But that is how Beneil Dariush defeated him the last time. And Beneil Dariush is a very smart guy. That would be the way to defeat him again this time. You must realize at 31 years old, you can't be getting chin checked all the time. You must realize that you're starting to take a little bit of damage. And you must realize that you're on a good little run here, 5-fight winning streak. Carlos Diego Ferreira is on a 6-fight winning streak. Beating him definitely is a nice victory that propels you forward. So Beneil Dariush has got to do what he's got to do to get the victory. And that would not be standing in front of him and banging with him. Because you mentioned the Drakkar close fight, but even before that, Drew Dober had Beneil Dariush deaded. And then it just turns out, Benny from the Bronx got that BJJ in his back pocket. You're not going to pull that out against Carlos Diego Ferreira, my friend. So you better hope that you're not in a compromised situation because, yeah, he's going to chuck bombs. He could clip you, could hurt you. Drakkar close, right? Decent fighter, certainly a good fighter. No power. He's never knocked out anybody. I mean, he's quite literally the decision machine. And yet he has Beneil Dariush seriously hurt. Scott Holtzman's massively outmatched, and yet still there's some spots where it's like a big, strong, physical guy can hurt Beneil Dariush, and I agree. And that's why I'm really hoping Beneil Dariush gets right to the wrestling. Take this guy down, control this guy on the ground. One thing with Carlos Diego Ferreira is that you look at the run, right? And so Jared Gordon, right? Jared Gordon's a 45er. He took the fight on short notice. He comes up. He's a brown belt. It was a bad spot. He gets finished in the first round. Kyle Nelson takes the fight on short notice, hurts Carlos Diego Ferreira in the first round, right? He's got this guy hurt. And in the second round, he gasses out as he tends to do. He loses.
Shout out Huntsville.
Yeah, Rustam Khabilov's got this weird thing where all of his fights are razor close. Every single fight the guy's in is razor close decisions. And so this just happens to go Diego Ferreira's way. But then 2 more strikers, right? Maribok Taysimov is a one-dimensional striker. And Anthony Pettis, I know people don't like to hear it, but he's a striker. It is what it is. Yeah, he can mix up with those guys. They're so worried about getting taken down. They don't want to get taken down that they don't let their hands fly. They fight him differently, right? So I don't think that Beneil Dariush is going to have that problem because, one, his striking is phenomenal. He's got very good striking. The problem is that he doesn't have the chin to back up the striking. He doesn't got the chin to go to war, right? But he's got a very good body kick. He's nasty out of his southpaw stance, good hooks over the top, hurt a lot of good guys, finished a lot of good guys with the strikes. Training with Master Rafael Cordero at a King's MMA, like a guy that always makes improvements. He's also got some of the best ring IQ. I know he gets into these dirty brawls once in a while, but he's got very high ring IQ. He's aware of what's going on. He's analyzing the situation. And if he thinks, close thinks I'm hurt, my best bet is to start swinging back now when he thinks I'm hurt and he's going to walk in, then that's what he does. And he wins. With Dober, he's getting killed. He's concussed. I'm concussed just watching him get concussed in that fight. And then he slaps on the armbar. It's like he's very aware of his surroundings. And it's nothing against Carlos Diego Ferreira. Excellent fighter. They're both excellent fighters. But I think that Beneil's got to be smart enough to realize I beat this guy once, taking him down, and my jiu-jitsu is good enough to stay out of harm's way. And that's the way I got to do it again. And so last thing here, and then we can move on. Carlos Diego Ferreira is 36 years old. As much skill as the guy has, at some point, you start to decline, okay? He's been off a year. Hasn't fought in a year. That's going to be a problem. That's going to add ring rust. His time is going to be off. A year ago, he fought Anthony Pettis. That's a non-win. The fuck does beating Anthony Pettis do for you? I got to stop being so harsh on Pettis. And anyways, a non-victory over Anthony Pettis. And then, so he's supposed to fight Drew Dober 2 months ago, and he pulls out. Now he's rebooked against Beneil Dariush. Like, why did he pull out because of? Been off a year, has the layoff, has an injury. All those little things are enough for me to bank Beneil Dariush, but Beneil Dariush ain't submitting them.
No.
And I really don't think Beneil Dariush is knocking him out. So I went Beneil Dariush by decision. which is how he won the first time around, and it's plus 300. It was just a nice enough looking price tag to me. However, when you tape study Beneil Dariush, it's like, this guy ain't going to decision. Like, he's fighting like kill or be killed. I'm just really hoping he's fighting that way because he sees, oh, it's Scott Holtzman, right? I can do that against Scott Holtzman. Oh, it's a lesser opponent. Even the Anthony Hernandez fight, he didn't know who the hell Anthony Hernandez was. So it's like, can you knock this guy? Yeah. But if he takes you seriously, he plans properly, he fights a good game plan. I do have faith in Beneil Dariush. He is a well-rounded fighter. He's got a lot of skills. He's certainly got my respect. And so, you've made a lot of excellent points too. This is probably a fight that you pass on and you just enjoy because it's going to be enjoyable. but I'm going to take Beneil Dariush by decision plus 300.
It's a great fight. I really can't wait. And one thing I want to add about this fight is I love situations like this where you see improvements from both guys throughout their UFC career, and they fought early in their careers. And now we get to see them fight once again and see the improvements and how these guys truly have shaken out in the amount of time since they last fought. All right, let's keep things moving along. Another short notice fight. We got our guy Cody Stamman taking on Askar. And no, I didn't stutter. The guy's name is Askar. We got Cody Stamman obviously coming in as a very heavy favorite. I think he's currently around that minus 470 range. I would not be surprised if he closes as a minus 800, because once people start running the tape, you're gonna realize really quickly that this guy just doesn't have anything for Cody Stamman. Now, the one thing that we've seen Askar really lean on in his prior fights was his length, his reach, his ability to kind of like technically outstrike some of these guys and keep them at bay. And then in his last fight against Kevin Worth, he goes out there, takes him out, or takes him down round after round, and just kind of just plays it safe. Because the fight before that, he goes out there and gets starched by Kakamaranov, I believe the guy's name was. But that just seems like a fight that he did not respect that guy at all. Just throwing bungalows with the dude just because he's like, I don't like this guy. And the guy's landing this overhand over and over again, and Askar does nothing to address it. And then eventually the last one catches up to him and knocks him out. So he plays it super safe in his next fight. Luckily for him, he's getting the short notice call up, so he makes it to the UFC, even though he got a loss 2 fights ago. But when you look at the tape, man, it's tough to see where he truly beats Cody Stamman. Is he going to outstrike him? I don't think so. I think Cody Stamman is probably one of the best striking wrestlers, like guys that have a wrestling background that have had to implement the striking into the game. I think he's one of the best at it. His kicks are great. His combinations are great. Yeah, he moves in and out very well. And in terms of being able to take the fight to the ground, he's able to do that. He's not able to do it against a guy like Jimmy Rivera. That guy's very tough to take down. Brian Kelleher, do you really want to take that guy down time and time again and risk your neck getting choked? Because that's definitely one of Kelleher's best moves. And then the Song Yadong fight, that fight goes to a draw. But arguably, all three of those guys are much better striker, much harder hitters than Askar, I should say. And yeah, exactly.
Askarov's dope.
Yeah, exactly. They're completely different situation. I don't want to get them mixed up. But yeah, I don't think that Askar, I don't think he knocks him out. I don't think he submits him, nor do I think he's going to take him down time and time again and grind this guy out. That's not happening, because the exact opposite is going to happen. We're going to see the Cody Stamman. Well, I don't think Cody Stamman is much of a finisher, so I think we'll see him take him down time and time again, or even just outstrike him on the feet if he wants to. But he wins this fight pretty much any which way. The spot that I like is obviously the decision prop. You're not getting any plus money on it because he's such a heavy favorite. So at that minus 140-ish range, I don't mind Stamman by decision. But yeah, I think if he wasn't minus 500, I'd be happy to play him straight at like even minus 350. The guy is just going to absolutely steamroll this guy. You think anything of Askar? Am I being too harsh on this guy? What's your take?
Askar he's decent enough. It's just a really tall task. I mean, you're coming into the UFC, it's your debut, and you're taking on Cody Stamman, is like a fringe 15 contender and a guy that's got legitimate skills everywhere. His thing is that he's not a top 10 wrestler. Boy, oh boy, he's got legitimate wrestling. He's not top 10 striker, but he's got really good striking. He's got really good cardio. He's got really good chin. He's got all these intangibles. It's just I don't see Cody Stamman putting it together against the best guys. He's always going to come up short against the Jimmy Riveras. He's always going to come up short against the Aljamain Sterlings. And again, bantamweight is the best division, bar none. But Cody Stamman, this fight's at 145 because Askar coming in on short notice. But Cody Stamman's UFC debut against Terrion Ware was also at 145, and he has campaigns of 45 in the past. Doesn't seem to be out of place. I mean, I've known the guy for a little bit. He's at a Michigan top team, and I got him on Facebook, so you like see all his posts and stuff. But he's always in the gym, man. This guy's always training. He's always going hard. And prior to the not the Brian Kelleher fight. Sorry, prior to the, I think, was it the Alejandro Perez fight? It was 2 fights back for him.
It was Perez, then Yadong, then Kelleher, then Rivera.
Right. So if you look at the stretch too, it's like you see the improvements that he's making every time out, right? The Yadong fight, he got robbed. He got flat robbed. I mean, he went out there and he kicked this guy's ass legitimately. Very nice performance. Brian Kelleher fight, right? This is where I go back to Facebook. I had noticed that his brother had died like on the Monday, and nobody had talked about it until like, I want to say Thursday, maybe the day before weigh-ins. It started becoming like a public thing. And I was telling people he's not going to fight. I just seen on Facebook his younger brother died like 2 days ago. No way this guy fights. He does go out. He does fight. It's Brian Kelleher, who was another fringe 20 guy, let's call him. But man, he looked good. He looked well-rounded. He looked motivated. He pushed it. He did everything in his power. But again, what you'll see the theme from him is he wins decisions.
Yeah.
All of his wins in the UFC are decisions. He can put it on you and still win a decision. And so Asker, I've seen him get wobbled in fights, come back to win it. And then the Karamanov fight. Karamanov only shows like a 6-2 record. That guy is sick, man. Yeah. He's going to be in the UFC very shortly. He's a legit fighter. So I don't think Asker has, a chin problem. This fight being at 45 is going to help them both, really, because there's going to be less power between them. The natural 35 is fighting at 45. And for Asker not going to have to make some extreme weight cut on short notice. So, fluids still in his body, fluids in his brain, rehydrated. Yeah, less of a chance of him getting knocked out. I think Cody Stamman goes out there and does what he always does, and that's get the decision victory, right, over those lower or mid-level competition guys. And that's what he should be able to go and do here as well. So you're looking at a guy that's nearly a 5-1 favorite, but only a -140 by decision. And then you look at his entire history. This is how he wins fights. It's by decision. And it's like, well, he's never fought a really low-end guy. It's like, no, he has. And again, they're decisions, right? He dominates guys. Nothing against that. God-given power is not for everybody. A crazy submission game is not for everybody. Winning rounds, winning fights, that's cool, man. That's credit. But that's your style, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It's the style. And it's his style. So, again, nothing wrong with it. But if he's going to win, one would think that's how he's going to do it. Now, is this going to be the first guy Cody Stamman puts away? Well, if he was going to put away a guy, it would be a guy taking the fight on 3 or 4 days' notice who just got knocked down 39 seconds, 2 fights back. But again, history tends to repeat itself, and Cody Stamman getting his hand raised by decision against this level of competition is traditionally what tends to happen. So I'm going to chase that -140 range. I see money starting to go down that way. But yeah, Cody Stamman by decision.
Yeah, this is actually going to be the third straight fight that we do see Cody Stamman fighting at 145 pounds. I know the short notice nature of this probably is reason why it's at 145 pounds, but he seems to be getting comfortable there, and he looks amazing at that weight class. All right, let's keep things moving along. We got 3 fights left, and again, reminder to the 220 people that we got in here, hit that like. Show your boys some support. That's the best way to do it. All right, next up, we got a UFC debutant who's actually, for the diehards out there, they've been waiting for this guy to make his UFC debut. We got Manel Kape coming in at -105 and Alexandre Pantoja welcoming him to the UFC at -115. And this is a line that it looks like over the last couple of days, or last couple of hours, I should say, it's starting to close. We did get Pantoja around that -145 range. Now he's at -115. People are loving them some Manel Kape. So the way that I kind of see it, Alexandre Pantoja, black belt in jiu-jitsu. We've seen Kape struggle with jiu-jitsu guys in the past, most notably a Lucas Sasaki, who also dropped a fight to Pantoja via submission relatively quickly too. But Lucas Sasaki was very successful in getting this fight to the ground against Kape and kind of controlling him there. Kape didn't really have much from his back. I was kind of surprised to find out that Kape is actually a brown belt, but it didn't seem like it in that fight. But then he goes on his next couple fights and shows why he is the talk of the town over there in Japan. The guy goes out there and puts guys out. He has great hands, very explosive, covers range very well too. I like the power in his hands as well. Obviously, his most notable victory as of late was that Kai Asakura fight. That was a fight that he dropped prior via split decision in the past. Comes back, leaves the judges out of it, and just goes out there and decapitates this guy in the second round. Beating Takeya Mizugaki 2 fights ago in 2020. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's nothing. You know what I mean? Right? Mizugaki was the shit back in 6-7 years ago. So not the biggest win, but at least he gets a UFC guy under his belt to add a little bit more glamour to his name. But I truly think that this is Pantoja gets him down early, submits him, or if this fight goes a little bit longer, we could see Kape probably take this guy's head off probably in the second or third round. And the reason I say that is you see Pantoja's cardio start to catch up to him roughly around that second round. In that third round against Askarov, you see him pretty much getting his face lit up by primarily a wrestler in Askarov. Like, he's just not as quick to defending these strikes that are coming his way. His striking defense goes down the drain as his cardio starts to take a hit. So if Kape is able to survive and get this fight into the later rounds, I think he's going to he could very much toy with him on the feet and possibly knock him out. So the angle that I like here the most is actually the under 2.5. It's around that minus 150 range right now. But if you want to go for a specific method of victory props, I like Pantoja via submission, which is plus 250, or Cape via knockout, which is plus 220. So it depends on which side you're going on. I think either guy's live for a finish. I like the under 2.5, a little bit chalky at minus 150, but that's the side that I'm going with. I think it's going to be Pantoja that takes him down and submits him. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I think Pantoja should obviously be the favorite in the spot. Minus 130 seems super reasonable, and now you're seeing money come down, and all it makes it is just a little more playable for Alexander Pantoja. This fight, in a sense anyways, I'll get to that, kind of reminds me of a little bit of Amanda Ribas versus Marina Rodriguez from 2 weeks ago that we talked about, right? And there was a spot where you had Ribas coming off a win over Paige Van Zandt. You know, she had fought very low-level competition or lower-level competition and was everybody's darling because she had defeated these lower-level fighters. And you had Marina Rodriguez, you know, she had a win over Tisha Torres. You know, she had a draw with Cynthia Calvillo. She's losing. She had a loss to Carlos Esparza in a close fight, a split decision of all things. It's like Marina Rodriguez was giving a really good account of herself against high-level competition versus somebody who was giving a great account of himself against low-level competition. At some point, they're going to meet. That's what I see here in Beneil Cap versus Alexander Pantoja. Everybody loves Cap. Oh, man, this guy's a legit contender, and he's got knockout power, and he's already a world champion. He's the bantamweight champion Ryzen, or he's the flyweight champion Ryzen. And, man, look at this. Look at this flash. Who is he defeated? So he defeated Kaya Sakura, who in Japan is apparently a big star. In the North American grand scheme of things, he's an absolute nobody. He's not ranked in the top 50, let's say. He's got a win over Kyoji Horiguchi. That's his claim to fame. And then Horiguchi obviously got it back on New Year's Eve. But Asakura is not the end-all be-all. He's got the win over Takeo Mizugaki, as you mentioned. Long shot gone version of himself. Seichiro Ito, that's not a quality victory, right? And then he lost to Ulka Sasaki, who was able to out-grapple him. When you saw Ulka Sasaki fight Pantoja, it didn't even seem like he had a clue what grappling was because Pantoja is an actual grappler. Monster. So we got a guy who's knocking out all strikers, okay? All the guys I named, all strikers in Japan, lower level guys, and he's knocking them out. He's allowed to wear shoes in the fucking fight. He's wearing wrestling shoes, okay? He's fighting in a ring. Like, there's a lot going on there. Now you look at Pantoja, and sometimes he looks great, sometimes not so much. Dude went the distance with Davidson Figueiredo in a wicked good fight, man. And he's taking shots, and he's pushing the pace. His last loss is to Askar Askarov, who we see how good he is. We see he's improving. He's fought in Dustin Ortiz. He's fought in a lot of these top guys in the division. And there's one thing about, he's got 2 wins over Brandon Moreno. One thing about Alexander Pantoja is like he's got skills everywhere. He's out of American Top Team. He always comes ready to go. He's got good striking, good power, great, solid BJJ. Wrestling leaves something to be desired. The one knock I'll give him, and I'll also give him, okay, I'll give you a pass on this, is that he looked really tired against Askar Askarov like 3-4 minutes into the fight. Like he gassed out right away. What I will give him the pass on is Askar Askarov pushes a hell of a pace. Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe that was part of it. With Cap, it's like, he's not going to, I mean, yeah, he could push a pace and he can knock him out. He can knock it anyway. He's got that power. But it's like, he doesn't really got a plan B, C, and D. His plan is to keep this fight standing and knock you out. But if you take him down, he's going to be in trouble. If you don't take him down, you chin check him, you can knock him out. His chin's not cast iron, right? And as far as just like working the guy, you've got all the experience. He's been off 1.5 years, and he's fought middling level Japanese strikers. Like, the chance to expose this guy is there. And I heard someone say something like, you liked Michael Chandler, right? Who had is a world champion outside the UFC, fought nobodies. You liked him to come to the UFC and do something. This guy's a world champion outside the UFC, right? You're saying fought nobodies. Why don't you like him? It's like, Chandler didn't fight nobodies. he fought good guys on his way up. And it's nothing against Kaya Sakura, but like, they're treating him like he's a god. They're treating him like he's the second coming of Japanese Christ. And it's like, he's not, man. He got lucky one time against Horiguchi. Run it back 10 times, see what happens.
You know what Kaya Sakura actually reminds me of? It's when Tyson Nam knocked out Eduardo Dantas, and everybody's like, oh, Tyson Nam. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the same situation. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. And then Tyson Nam dropped a decision to Cody Bollinger like a year later. Like, was he really that good, or was that his one moment? That was his one moment, right? Is he good? Yeah, he still fights the UFC to this day. So, like, you can't discredit Tyson Nam, but when people always say like, oh, there's levels to this, Pantoja fought the current best UFC 25er, because I still think Demetrius is the GOAT at 125, but Davidson's certainly building a case for himself. You fought this guy better than anybody has, you know? You fought this guy tooth and nail. You took his best shots. You gave him some hell of good shots. That's the stuff that builds you. You know, these other fights, they're building him. He's doing good. He's getting better. The Askar Askarov fight, again, maybe a step back, but if you know me, you know I love Askar Askarov. This is a legitimate talent. Losing him, again, not that big of a deal. So you take Beneil Cap and you match him against Askarov, and you match him against Davidson Figueiredo, and you match him against Brandon Moreno, and I bet you he's losing all those fights. I don't think he beats any of those guys. But this is MMA, my friend. It's a hell of a bitch. And so could he pull a Michael Chandler, go out there, ice this guy in the first round, look like $1 million? Yeah, it's MMA. It's entirely possible. But like where I bring it back to the Hebus versus Rodriguez comparison, sometimes you got to go with the actual body of work. And Pantoja has the actual body of work. This is a close fight. This is a competitive fight. I could see it going either way. But if you're going to give me 50-50 odds on a fight that there is a rightful favorite in Alexander Pantoja, I'll take that shot. Now, you're saying you mentioned the submission prop, and like it looked tasty to me. My boy Clint's mentioning the decision prop. I looked at that too. I mean, it's a great price too. Ultimately, though, it seems like we all do think Pantoja does win. We're just baffled maybe on how he gets it done, but I think he'll find a way.
Yeah, no, I think I like Pantoja as well here, but I'm just having that one little hiccup for some reason to actually go full out and pull the trigger here. All right, we're at the co-main event. 232 of y'all. Hit that like. I'm going to keep reminding y'all. Hit that like. All right, let's get to this co-main event. We got young upstart and Corey Sandhagen coming in at minus 400. Absolute disrespect on our guy, Frankie the Answer Edgar, who's coming off a very interesting win over Pedro Munoz last time around. A lot of people thought that chin would not hold up against Pedro Munoz, who was just coming off that victory over Cody Garbrandt, where he knocked him out. So not a lot of people were expecting Frankie Edgar to handle the power of one Pedro Munoz, but he does. You know what I mean? Pedro Munoz lands some good shots. Frankie Edgar walks through them and still goes out there and implements his game plan. Say what you want about the decision, but the fact that Frankie Edgar even made it 25 minutes was a win in itself. So the fact that, we still saw him go out there and do the Frankie Edgar thing. You know what I mean? Dance around, land a couple combinations, pivot out, get out of the way, eat some shots, but still keep chugging and keep moving along and racking up the strikes. So my main concern with this fight here against Corey Sandhagen is the durability of Frankie Edgar, because if he's able to stay in this fight for the full 15 minutes, he could potentially make it close. And like the main thing is obviously the path to victory could possibly be the takedowns here. The takedown defense of Corey Sandhagen leaves a lot to be desired for sure. And Frankie Edgar, solid background in wrestling, can take a guy down. And I think he'll be very live in taking Sandhagen down here. But I think Sandhagen has decent enough jiu-jitsu to possibly find his way back to his feet. I'm not expecting Aljamain Sterling level of jiu-jitsu here from Frankie Edgar, which is why I think that the purple belt of Corey Sandhagen should hold up and get him back to the feet where he should do his best work, which is his unorthodox striking style, keep moving in and out, throwing his spinning shit, his flying shit, whatever it is. Corey Sandhagen doing Corey Sandhagen shit. He could absolutely do that. Now, the one thing that people need to remember here from the Frankie Edgar side and his fight against Pedro Munoz is pretty much a walking punching bag. The guy doesn't care if you try to take him down, which is why he's just going out there swinging leather, because either he's going to knock you out, he's going to leg kick you to death, or you try to take him down and he snatches onto his guillotine, which he's submitted a couple people to in the past. Corey Sandhagen does not fight like that. The guy moves way more. The guy is much more methodical with his striking approach, and I think that's going to cause Frankie Edgar a little bit of issues here. Now, minus 400 is a little bit crazy for me. I'm not playing that minus 400. Frankie could absolutely make this fight much, much closer than that. I was looking at the over 2.5. That's minus 240. That's a little bit too juicy for me, because what if that chin issue of Frankie Edgar shows up again? That's my main issue here. So the spot that I like the most, but even that, I want a little bit better of a price on it, is Sandhagen to win this fight via decision at minus 105. On the inverse, you can take the Edgar plus 430 to win by decision, just to cover it in case Frankie does make it much, much closer. I'm having trouble really wanting to part ways with my money on a prop here. The one that I'm most confident in, I'm still not the most confident in it, which again is that Sandhagen decision. I got Sandhagen decision minus 105. How are you seeing this one?
Honestly, I have no prop in this. There's no prop that I like. And I'm a Sandhagen truther. I'm a Sandhagen nut hugger. Sandhagen's my guy. I've bet on Sandhagen every single fight. People thought that John Lineker got robbed. No, motherfucker, you wrong. Corey Sandhagen won that fight fair and square. And then sure enough, I'm all over him and Aljamain Sterling. And I broke down the fight and I said, first and foremost, Corey Sandhagen does have takedown defense issues. That's his issue. I didn't think he had a grappling issue. I didn't think he was going to get submitted like that, but he does get taken down. And you even watch like other fights in the UFC, same thing. The Mario Batista fight's a great example. Like you can take this guy down, but he snags him up with an armbar. Frankie's really tough to submit. Aljamain was going to be tough to submit, but the way Aljamain takes him down, it's like effortless. You know, he just takes him down at will. If he wanted to take him down 10 more times in that round, he could have, because it didn't seem like there was much resistance from Corey Sandhagen. And I was going into that fight, I was really big on Corey Sandhagen's at Elevation Fight Team. They've got a cast of fantastic wrestlers. Everyone's in great shape. There's no doubt this guy's been working on his takedown defense, and you watch, you'll see a new wrinkle in his game. But there was no wrinkle in his game. He couldn't stuff the takedown. As soon as he got taken down, he gave up his back. As soon as he gave up his back, he got rear naked choke. Now it's Aljamain, you know, the Funk Master. He's slick.
Human backpack.
Yeah, exactly. Human backpack. But like, is it crazy to think that Frankie couldn't do something similar? Like maybe not without the rear naked choke, but maybe with it. But like, his wrestling's good enough to certainly score some takedowns against Sandhagen. Is Sandhagen going to armbar Frankie Edgar off his back? No. And like, who's submitting Frankie Edgar? Nobody. Maybe his chin is starting to become a little bit suspect. Maybe you can find his way. But certainly in the Pedro fight, whether you thought he won or lost, I thought he lost. Regardless, he went 5 rounds, went 5 hard rounds, and he took all of his best shots. So Frankie, you can talk about durability being an issue, but he's got a way of coming back. He's one of these guys that's got so much pedigree, so much back class, former world champion at 155 pounds of all places, you know? Title challenger at 45, title challenger at 35. Everywhere he goes, he has success. No doubt we're getting to the end of the road. But with Sandhagen, he's a young, green, developing prospect still, even though I really like the guy. Don't get me wrong, he's my guy. But to make him a 4-1 favorite over Frankie, who possesses the 2 skills that Sandhagen has shown to struggle against, it's a big problem. Now, this is a 3-round fight, and Frankie's the king of the 5. So imagine cutting down 10 minutes and telling Frankie, you know what? Go hard for 15. He can do it. He can wrestle for 15 minutes. Believe you me. It's whether he goes out there with that game plan of just wrestle. And, you know, with Sandhagen, he's dying. If you get throwing wheel kick stuff against Frankie, you're just giving him more opportunities to find that path to get the fight to the ground. And it's not that long ago, you know, it is actually a long time ago, but it's not that long ago that everyone was talking about the young, super dynamic Rodriguez, such a good striker. Frankie Edgar's done. He can't take a punch anymore. Frankie takes this guy down and changes his life, right? Because he is a former world champion. He's one of these guys that's always going to fight for your dollar, give you your best bet. I want to bet Sandhagen, as I mentioned. This is my guy. 4-1. I can't get behind that. I can't. So I chase a prop, right? Well, maybe Sandhagen knocks him out. I didn't like the prop, honestly. Well, maybe the Sandhagen, but I couldn't get decision prop. He's not submitting him. Couldn't get a good read. The only thing that did jump out at me was Frankie Edgar by submission was 21-1.
Oh my God.
Money has since come in on it, and it's still 18-1, right? So how does Frankie win this fight if he does win? Decision. That would have been my. But, you know, seeing Aljamain take the guy down and seeing Aljamain take the guy's back and seeing Aljamain sink in the choke, like, it's not the craziest thing in the world to think that Frankie's got one more performance left in him, right? With Pedro Munoz, he's as high as it gets in BJJ, right? So you're not taking this guy down. You're not submitting him. You had to stand with him. And, you know, again, Frankie might have won, I think 2, 3, and 5. But I thought he lost the fight, to be honest. I thought he lost the fight 4-1. But he's Frankie Edgar, right? Sometimes he's in close rounds, so they edge it to him. And I don't want that to be the case here. I don't want him to edge out another shit decision that I didn't think he won on the basis of it was too close. 4-1 should be a rout. 4-1 should be a first-round knockout Sandhagen. Maybe that's going to happen, but I don't fully see that myself. I didn't like the props on this one. Love the fight. Going to have to pass on a prop perspective.
Yeah, this one is very, very tough to call from a prop spot. Again, nothing juicy enough. And I don't understand this whole like Frankie Edgar by sub thing. Like, it's just, I truly rate Aljamain Sterling's grappling way higher, or jiu-jitsu strictly way higher than what Frankie Edgar's been going at. And our guy Almac actually threw in the stat here. The last time he submitted anybody was 2014 against Cub Swanson. So it's been a while. Let's just say that.
Yeah, not only that, he broke the jaw. He broke Cub's jaw, and it was in the 5th round, right? This is only a 3-rounder. So, like, he beat the crap out of Cub for 24.5 minutes and then broke his jaw with the neck crank.
Yeah,
so, exactly. I mean, is that going to happen here? I don't know. But, again, and I always say this, it's MMA, right? Sure. Did I think Munir Laziz would get body kicked in the first round?
Marcin Prachnio winning by decision.
Marcin Prachniow over Khalil Roundtree, and it's a decision victory. Like, why didn't I bet Marcin Prachniow by decision? It was 12-1 because I didn't see it happen.
Exactly.
But it did, right? So, yeah, at least something to leave you with.
All right, let's get to the main event. We got 245 people in here. You guys keep filing it in. Thank you guys for coming out on this Thursday evening and chilling with us. Make sure you guys hit that like below. That's the best way to show us support. Obviously, staying active in the chat is great, but hitting that like is just so easy. Just take your mouse, go down to that like button, and just click. That's it. That's all you got to do. All right, let's get into the main event here. We got Alexander Volkov coming in as a -200 favorite against Alistair Overeem at +170. I believe this is like number 6 heavyweight against number 7 heavyweight. Definitely a pivotal spot here. You got Overeem coming in, I believe, on a 2-fight winning streak. Both finishes over Walt Harris and Augusto Sakai last time around, and then Volkov coming off a 1 win over Walt Harris. Now, it's a tough one. This is, for Overeem fights, it's always like, is his chin going to hold up? Because if his chin holds up, his skills seem to still kind of be there, even at that 40-year-old age that he's at. And not just his skills keeping that in check, he's adding more tools to his belt. You know what I mean? Like, I put the statistic out. In his first 13 fights in the UFC, he only completed 3 takedowns. Then obviously the Curtis Blades fight happens. He changes camps, goes to Team Elevation, and he's had 5 fights since he's been at that gym. And now he's completed 7 takedowns. The guy is going out there and refining his game. He's changing his game. He knows he just can't go out there and throw bungalows anymore, and one of those guys are going to fall. I mean, he can't do that anymore. It's caught up to him. So what does he do? He mixes in the grinding. I mean, he's pushing guys up against the cage. He's using his legendary knees. You know what I mean? He's beating these guys up to the body. Then he's taking them down. You've seen some of the takedowns that he's been pulling off in his last couple of fights. Like, when the hell did he learn to do that? Like, it's not just double legs. It's not just single legs. Like, this guy's like spinning into take. I don't know the exact terms, but there's some crazy takedowns that he's pulling off here. With that said, you know, Volkov, I'm not going to say that we're getting a Curtis Blades type of performance from Overeem here against Volkov. He's not going to go out there and shoot 25 takedowns and land 14 of them. That's not going to happen. But he should be able to, in my opinion, if his chin holds up in that first round and a half, I expect him to go out there, put a bit of a pace and pressure on Volkov, pushing him up against the cage, taking him down every now and then, roughing him up a little bit. And I'm liking an Overeem by decision prop here. I think he's going to be able to wear on Volkov. I think that, Volkov is quite durable. The only time we've seen him finish as of late was that bomb and that nuke by Derek Lewis. And again, that was a fight that he was going on to win. But I'm not entirely sure why people are propping Volkov up so high, especially after a win over Walt Harris. Like, who was Walt Harris beat? Yeah, I mean, I don't even know why people are rating that win. It was a good win. Obviously, he went out there and finished him, which was great. But Walt Harris is Walt Harris. He's just a big athletic guy that can knock people out every now and then. Yeah, he clipped Overeem, dropped Overeem. Overeem showed great awareness, got back to his feet, took him down, and then just started whooping on him. I mean, so the one thing I don't like about Overeem, though, his defensive shell that he gets into. I mean, he backs up into the cage, puts his hands up, and just lets his opponents go ham. And if he's not knocked out by that point, he moves forward, breaks away, and then gets his game going. But those little moments make me skeptical in terms of putting the bet on Overeem here. I still think he wins. I still think he's going to be successful in mixing up the complete MMA game. He still has great striking, great clinch, like I was saying as well, has solid takedowns in his back pocket now. Whereas Volkov, I think he's mainly just a volume striker, not really known to be a knockout artist. You know what I mean? He's put on this crazy amount of weight for that Walt Harris fight. I think he came in 18 pounds heavier. But then again, that was up to the heavyweight limit at 265. So who knows how much he's actually walking around at. How much is that going to help him later in this fight? Now he has to go 25 minutes. He doesn't have 15 minutes to go. He has 25 against Alistair Overeem, a veteran Alistair Overeem that knows how to kind of pace himself now and take fights into the later parts of it. And yeah, he gave up the first 2 rounds to Augusto Sakai, and Sakai's game plan just went out the window, or his gas tank, whatever it was. We saw Overeem get him down over and over again and really start raining down those shots. So I'm loving the evolution that we're seeing from Alistair. I think it's like Alistair 3.0 at this point in time. But I like that decision prop. We got plus 550 on Overeem to win by decision. I think he just puts together an all-together game as long as he doesn't get knocked out early. That's the only qualm that I have. I don't know if we'll see Volkov actually beat him over 5 rounds. I like Overeem. Think he mixes it up together much better than Volkov and takes home a decision. What about you? What do you think?
Alistair the Demolition Man Overeem, one of my favorite fighters all time. And I think
bring the hammer. Bring the hammer.
Dead man walking right here. I think he's I think he's in for a rough one for sure. Listen, he's not Alistair Overeem version 3.0. He's kind of been on the right side of a couple fights that could have gone either way. Listen, the Walt Harris fight, he's getting tuned. He's getting absolutely smashed by Walt Harris. who has no notable victories. You nailed it yourself. Walt Harris is a 2.5-minute guy who knocks you out in that, and that's it, okay? He's also like 4 months removed from his stepdaughter getting kidnapped and murdered. He's largely overweight and looks very soft. And then the UFC parades the poor son of a bitch on stage being like, tell the story again. It's like, leave him alone, man. Like, what is going on here? They give him a headlining fight against Overeem. He's the favorite for whatever reason. And he's about this close to getting a stoppage win over Alistair Overeem. But Overeem comes back. Walt Harris gasses out for 3 minutes. Overeem gets the win. Now you got the Augusto Sakai fight. Augusto Sakai lights him up, almost knocks him out, defeats him the first 2 rounds, and then Augusto Sakai, it comes in incredibly poor shape, is not ready for a 5-rounder, eventually just essentially gives up. Now you mentioned the wrestling and all the new wrinkles to the game, and those are not good takedowns, my friend. Those are not. There's a reason why you don't see anybody else doing it. There's a reason why single legs, double legs, inside trips, outside trips, body lock takedowns, that's the way you get guys down. You don't see people coming in and suplexing each other. Why? Because it's a hard move to pull off. Overeem's out there suicide diving guys, right? He's out there football tackling guys. You look at this takedown over Stefan Struve. You look at the Yarazino Rosenstruck fight, but mostly the Sakai fights. The Sakai fight, Sakai's so tired. Overeem just pushes him into the cage and just pulls Sakai essentially onto him, knowing he's so tired. I'm just going to spin and get on top, reverse position, and end up on top. It's not high-level wrestling. It's low-level wrestling. And it's working because the guy he's fighting has no level wrestling and is extremely gassed out. It works against Walt Harris. It works against Augusto Sakai. It's not going to work against anybody with a modicum of wrestling. And whereas Alexander Volkov wrestling has largely been his kryptonite for a long time, he spent a lot of time working on it. Now, you mentioned a fact, with Volkov, he comes out there in his last fight against Walt Harris and he's bigger. He put on some mass. And how's that going to work now that he's got to go 25 minutes with Alistair over him? Who's got the best cardio at heavyweight, right? It's Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades is at elevation. He's got fantastic wrestling. Volkov gives up 14 takedowns, okay? Alistair Overeem could not take down me 14 times, right? Because after 3, I'd be dead. Right? No, after 1, I'd be dead. But after 3, he'd be physically gassed. Like, that's the thing. Look at him. He doesn't execute any type of energy anymore. Back in the day, he used to throw combinations. Back in the day when he was K1 level striker, Alistair Overeem, he'd go out there, he'd light you up with knees to the body. Now he just tries to throw 1 punch at a time, 1 or 2 punches at a time. Shell up defense, back up, 1 shot, maybe try to take you down. He's looking to slow everything down because he doesn't got great cardio. He's been knocked out 14 times in his professional MMA career, 3 times in his professional kickboxing career, and 100 times in his professional Netherlands hard training career, right? Like, this guy has been through the ringer. No doubt the right man can catch him. Most guys at heavyweight that catch him are going to put a hurt on him. The thing is, Sakai ran out of gas. Harris ran out of gas. Volkov won't run out of gas. So you look back against Curtis Blades and Volkov, 14 takedowns. In the 5th round, Curtis Blades, best cardio in the division, gassed, tired. Alexander Volkov, who's been getting up all fight long, putting it on him, coming back, giving a great account of himself. 5th round against Curtis Blades, taking down 14 times in that fight. Still coming at him. If he gives half of that effort against Alistair Overeem, he's got this. Overeem needs to knock him out in the 1st round. Possible, but I don't see it happening. And the volume is just going to wear towards Volkov. And the more the fight progresses, Volkov's just going to keep landing on him. And he's going to keep landing on him. And the one's going to hit. It doesn't have to be a hard shot. It's just got to be a clean shot. Overeem doesn't got a great chin. You can work him to the body. That same up-seam front body kick that you seen to Walt Harris. When Overeem shells up, front body kick this guy, win this guy, tire this guy out. And whereas Sakai and Walt Harris got tired, when Volkov doesn't get tired, you're not going to see that Overeem comeback. He's like 2 months shy of his 41st birthday. He's definitely slowing down. He always talks about like, the one last heavyweight title fight run. But it's like as soon as he fights an actual contender, he gets knocked out. Look at all the contenders he's fought. He's fought all the best guys in the world. Yeah. Now, the last argument is, what about the Rosenstruck fight where he went 5 rounds with him, arguably was about to win and then gets caught with by one of the second heaviest punch in the division next to Francis Ngannou, right? Yeah. Nasty. But it's just like, well, what about that fight? Look in that fight. It's like, no, he didn't. Rosenstruck opted to not do anything in that fight. He was just sat and waited. Volkov doesn't do that. He brings it to you. Overeem's got an 80-inch reach, and that's actually played him very well over the course of his career. Volkov's got an 80-inch reach too, 6'7". He's the rangier guy. I'd say Overeem's a better kickboxer, but at 41, he's slower, man. Like, these guys are getting to him. The fact that Walt Harris is almost knocking him out, does that scream K1 level kickboxer? Dude, head kick Badr Hari. Does that scream this guy? No. And then you see him on those scales, and like, if I had a body like that, I wouldn't own shirts. So shirts would not be something that I would have any need for. But by his standard, ain't what he used to look like.
Oh
man.
no,
this guy ain't. He's not Overeem, you know. He's back to being Overeem, and at some point, he's gonna start looking more like Valentine Overeem, big bro. Check out his record if you want. And yeah, I don't know. It's like it's got to catch up eventually. So I had him against Walt Harris, and I had him against Augusto Sakai, and I lost I think I lost 7 pounds in the Walt Harris fight and 4.5 pounds in the Sakai fight from sweating balls, man. Like it's a sweat, but like I'm not. Even though he's making me money, even though I've been on the right side of it, like I can't roll that train forever, man. Like it's gonna catch up with him eventually. And I think this is going to be it. So I got Volkov winning inside the distance. And that Volkov by TKO is plus 140. And that's what I liked here. I'm going to chase that Volkov by knockout. I know some people are saying, well, what about under 3.5? What about under 2.5? What about, over, under? I just think he's going to knock him out at some point. It could happen in the first round. It could happen in the 5th round. It could happen at any time in between. And yeah, he could get chin checked himself. Like it's a fight that I don't think goes the distance, but it's heavyweight MMA. If they both slow down, it could go. But I think if Overeem slows down, Volkov won't. He'll put the pressure on him. He'll put him away. For that reason, Volkov's going to be the final pick and chase that by knockout prop plus 140.
Somebody said in the comment section, Pez dispenser knockout for Volkov here. And that's exactly kind of what's scaring me off here is like that shell that he does. Volkov has a very nasty uppercut of his own. And I could just see it creeping through that guard of Overeem and just absolutely deading him. But yeah, I'll stick with my Overeem pick. I like that decision prop. And you're on Volkov. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to hit up Gunny really quick. So what I mean by that, right, he opted not to do anything, is that you look at, say, Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou, right? It's not like anybody's trying to lose the fight. That's your second point here. No one's trying to lose the fight. I agree. Is they're opting not to do anything because Francis's style is he goes after these guys. He knocks these guys out. Derek Lewis's style, he goes after these guys. Now you're matched up with a guy and you have that hesitancy where it's like, well, I don't really want to make the mistake. I don't really want to get caught with this shot. And so now you opt to not do anything. You think that's your game plan, but when you rewatch the fight at the end of the day and you lost, if you're Francis Ngannou, you lost a split decision to Derek fucking Lewis of all people. You look back and it's like, shit, I just didn't do anything. I need to do a little bit more. You see that spot. So what I'm saying with Rosenstruck versus Overeem, he knows Overeem's trying to take him down. He knows Overeem's got big KO power, and so he's opting not to do anything. He's going to wait. I got 25 minutes to work with. At some point, he'll tire. I'll catch him. And with Overeem, I honestly, everyone had him up 3-1 going into the 5th. I did 2-2. Like, I didn't think he walked right through Rosenstruck. It was actually a pretty competitive fight beyond the first 2 rounds as the takedown stopped working after the first 2 rounds. In fact, he stopped trying the takedowns altogether because he opted to not do anything because he wanted to conserve some gas. So I don't know. Maybe it doesn't make sense to you, but it makes sense to me, right? It's you go in with different game plans for different guys. And sometimes being the counter puncher is the game plan. Sometimes laying back and waiting the action to come to you is the game plan. Unfortunately, sometimes you lose a fight, you go back and you realize it was the wrong game plan. That's all.
No, I hear your take on that for sure. All right, let's get into our best bets. Let's wrap this thing up. We're coming up on 2 hours when we're trying to moderate ourselves. So going blasting through the limits here. All right, let me share my screen real quick. Bang. All right, let's get this going. So I'll kick things off as always. Our 3 best props for UFC Vegas 18. First and foremost, I got Overeem via decision. We just talked about that. I like that plus 550. Cody scared me off it a little bit, but I still like Overeem here. I do think that he completes takedowns, has some solid control time, and pulls the W that way. And then next up, I got Justin Jaynes. So I do think Davonte Smith wins. However, I think there's a ton of value on this prop on Justin Jaynes to win in round 1 at plus 625. I'm still very skeptical about the chin on Davonte, and Justin Jaynes coming in on short notice, just like he did against Frank Camacho. He's just going to say, fuck it, move forward, try to land bombs. And if he does, his victory is going to come in that first round. And Justin Jaynes in round 1 at plus 624, I think is a very solid spot. Again, just lunch money, guys. Lunch money on this one because I still do think that Smith could beat him to the punch. But it's MMA, like we were talking about earlier. And then lastly, I got Procopio via sub. You guys know I need to have a nice juicy one in there. Plus 725 Procopio. I think she gets her down. Molly McCann, that is. And then puts that black belt to use and beats her, let's say, by some sort of foothold, because that's where I think about Molly McCann here. All right, Cody, let's go.
Well, you can't spell can without Molly McCann, so I will give you that one. I'm going to go with Cody Stamman by decision. You guys know me. I like to start the first one up with something that's not necessarily a huge plus money play, but something I do think is going to come through. Stamman's got a career record of winning these decisions. He's definitely the rightful favorite in the spot. He's a 5-1 favorite, but I do see that trend of decisions continuing. And so for that reason, I'll take Cody Stamman by decision. -140. Moving on that, let's jump into that plus money. I got Procopio too. Unfortunately, one of us is going to have to lose. I'm going with Laura Procopio by decision +220. I just think that even though she does got the superior BJJ, Molly McCann will just fish out of water off her back, hopefully. As far as the fight stay standing, lots of volume from both ends, but the reach should play out to Procopio. The power's just not quite there, and so I do think this one's going to decision. Lucky for you, as long as Laura Procopio doesn't knock her out or lose, you're going to win one of these. And then capping it off, you were talking about how I got just scared about the Overeem decision. Well, you got me scared about the Dariush by decision, man. We're supposed to be on the same team, propping each other up. But realistically, you just you're that slap in the face that I needed, that glass of cold water that's just like, well, think about this one a little bit more. However, the angling I got on this is that, again, we have seen this fight. It was 6 or 7 years ago. We have seen this fight before. Dariush is able to get the takedowns. He's able to use his jiu-jitsu to just stay out of harm's way. One huge thing about Carlos Diego Ferreira is nobody wants to grapple with him, but Beneil can. Beneil does have the wrestling advantage. He did back then, and he does now. He's got to use that ring IQ, and he's got to tell himself. He's got to be real with himself. Rafael Cordero's got to be real with him, too. The gym's got to be real with him. Man, you can strike with this guy. You could hurt him. Kyle Nelson hurt him. Why could you not do the same thing? But the path of least resistance is just make this a grappling match. And listen, path of least resistance, this guy's a 3rd-degree BJJ black belt. Like, this is going to be a tough fight no matter how you chalk it up. But, like, don't get caught with one of those bombs because we've been seeing you do it. We've seen you get caught. I think he just needs to make this a grappling match and be the guy that ends up with the top control, right? The only time he's ever lost a grappling match is Mike Chiesa, who that fight was at 55, and Mike Chiesa is the largest welterweight, let alone the biggest lightweight you've ever seen in your life. It was just one of those spots. And by the way, he looked good in the first round. He just gave it up after that. So Beneil, get back on track. +300 is the real main thing here. It's a nice big plus money play. And hoping for the best. I kind of cowered it. I'm seeing I got all decisions, and I'm sure if you've listened to the whole show at this point, I got a lot of these overs. I think this card's going to be mostly decisions, to be honest. But hopefully if anybody's going to blow it and finish one, it's not going to be these three.
Well, I'm hoping that Procopio goes out there and takes a foot home with her after this event. So those are our 3 best bets. Great to get back in the saddle with my guy, Cody Saftic. It feels like forever. It always feels like forever when we got 1 week off. We had that 3-week break. Now we had a 1 week break. But the next 8 weeks, peeps, we're going to be right here Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, tomorrow we'll be here for the final weigh-in with the regular crew, me, Cody Saftic, Just Bleed, and MMA Prediction Crew. That's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you guys join us for that. That's the final weigh-in. Also, there's the post show that I believe Almac and Just Bleed do as well, too. So make sure you guys come back to YouTube after you guys are done watching the fights and catch up on the post show with those guys. Yeah, I'm happy to finally do this, Cody. I'll give you the platform in terms of anything you want to say on the way out, and then I'll wrap this thing up.
Yeah, well, I know you and I discussed how we would try to make this show an hour today, but man, when we get talking, I know. When we get talking, it's good times all the time. Yeah. I always enjoy chatting fights with you. And I just really think that it's a great group of guys that join the comment section, get involved. And we always really appreciate the support. If you're looking to find me, you can obviously find me on Twitter at CJ Saftic. But most of all, if you want to find me, you can find me right here tomorrow night with the rest of the Odd Squad breaking it down. And my man Lock of the Night kind of threw a couple ideas in my head. Now I'm rethinking shit. So now I got to see where Bleeding Guru sit. And then ultimately we're going to put this together. But I feel okay about this card. Can't keep a good man down forever, right? So eventually we're going to hit a good one. As far as the props last week or 2 weeks ago, great. We got to get some of these dirty parlays going, some of these greasy parlays going. And so that's for tomorrow's night show. If you can join us, fantastic. If you can't, always catch the rerun on YouTube. And as Locke always says, hit the like. I mean, it's a simple thing. It really does go a long way. You guys love free content. We love delivering you free content. It's not free to everybody. The way it's always going to be free, just hit the like. Just hit the like button. That goes a long way. Sharing, that does a good thing too, right? Tell your friends. I mean, I'm sure it all helps out. But if you like free content, it's super simple. It just puts it into the algorithm, which the bosses like, and they're happy with it. They're happy with it. We're happy with it. We're happy with it. Hopefully you guys are happy with it. And the main thing is hopefully the bookie's not happy with it because we got to get some of that money back. So let's make it this Saturday, my friend.
Hopefully somebody's passing out some diapers so nobody's shitting in your apple pie this weekend. But I'm really liking this card from a betting perspective. I can't wait to get it going. As Cody said, we'll see you guys tomorrow for the final weigh-in show, the post show on Saturday as well. And then we're right back at it again next week. 8 straight weekends of events. Appreciate you guys joining as always. Make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night for the final weigh-in stream at 9 p.m. Eastern. See you guys then.